Chapter 3007. Naturally, Sacred Ancestor Tian and Sacred Ancestor Yun would try their best to save Sacred Ancestor Guang. They didn't think they could do it, but they had to try. They looked at each other and took actions. They each took out some ropes. If they could catch Sacred Ancestor Guang and pull him out, then there would still be hope. But would Lu Li give them the chance? Clearly they would not. Lu Li grinned as the two sacred ancestors dashed in. He asked Blood Fairy to control the sacred mountain to go in. The two sacred ancestors were slow, but the holy mountain was fast. As soon as the two sacred ancestors showed up, Lu Li smashed the holy mountain so that they could not save Sacred Ancestor Guang. When the two sacred ancestors threw out the ropes and whips, Lu Li smashed the holy mountain to break the ropes and whip. The two sacred ancestors had been busy for a whole day, but to no avail. Not only did they fail to save Sacred Ancestor Guang, but they also almost lost their lives. Once, Sacred Ancestor Yun almost fell into the mountain. Lu Li had been flying the holy mountain around. One of the sacred ancestors was worried sick. Though they could not use psychic power, they could tell that Sacred Ancestor Guang was getting weaker. Was he really going to be frozen to death? A frozen Asmodean lord? This might be the first case in the history of the Asmodean abyss. Not even the third heaven had a saint emperor frozen to death. Theoretically speaking, Sacred Ancestor Guang would not be frozen to death even when the temperature was extremely cold. At worst, his soul would be in silence, and he would not be able to move his body. Of course, there was also the possibility that Sacred Ancestor Guang's soul would be frozen to death if the temperature was extremely cold. In that case, Sacred Ancestor Guang might die. That was what Sacred Ancestor Tian feared the most. Therefore, he tried everything to save Sacred Ancestor Guang. However, Lu Li was like a maggot in a tarsal bone. He was still wandering around. There was nothing they could do but watch. 2 days, 3 days, 5 days. Sacred Ancestor Tian and the other Sacred Ancestor Yun tried many ways, but Lu Li foiled all of them. Sacred Ancestor Guang was getting weaker and weaker. Lu Li had made up his mind to kill Sacred Ancestor Guang. He was a man who would repay kindness with kindness and enmity with enmity. After being demonized, his personality became even more tyrannical, so he naturally would not miss an opportunity. After another 3 days, Sacred Ancestor Guang's aura was completely gone. Sacred Ancestor Tian and Sacred Ancestor Yun were heartbroken. Their eyes were filled with rage as they stared at the sacred mountain with killing intent. But what could they do? They could only watch helplessly. If they were to take the risk, not only would they fail to save Sacred Ancestor Guang, but they would also be dragged into the matter as well. Lu Li did not leave. He decided to wait for a few more days until all the Sacred Ancestor Guang were dead. Another 6 days passed. Lu Li sensed no signs of life from Sacred Ancestor Guang. He was relieved and flew the sacred mountain into the distance. As soon as Lu Li left, the two sacred ancestors hurried to the core area to pull Sacred Ancestor Guang out. They found that Sacred Ancestor Guang was as hard as iron and there was no breath of life coming from him. His soul was frozen and cracked. He must be dead. Sacred Ancestor Tian was unwilling to give up. He took out many divine medicines and fed them to Sacred Ancestor Guang, but all of them were useless. Sacred Ancestor Guang's soul had been shattered, and it seemed that it would be very difficult to save him. Wait, half a day later, Sacred Ancestor Tian sensed that Sacred Ancestor Guang's soul was weak and there was a breath of life coming from his body as well. Good! Sacred Ancestor Tian was overjoyed. He helped Sacred Ancestor Guang heal himself at once. He asked Sacred Ancestor Yun to put Sacred Ancestor Guang into his interspatial ring and went on to the sacred mountain. Sacred Ancestor Tian treated Sacred Ancestor Guang for 10 days. Finally, Sacred Ancestor Guang had signs of life. That being said, the injury to his soul was too serious. It was really cracked. Injuries to the soul were the most difficult to recover from. It seemed that this was not an ordinary injury. It was still uncertain if Sacred Ancestor Guang could recover. If he could not, then he could become an idiot. Sacred Ancestor Tian treated Sacred Ancestor Guang for a few more days. Seeing that Sacred Ancestor Guang was stable, Sacred Ancestor Tian left. Sacred Ancestor Yun could not catch up with the Sacred Mountain. He had lost his way. Sacred Ancestor Tian went out and checked for a while. Then, Sacred Ancestor Yun went after Sacred Ancestor Tian. Luli did not move too fast. He was waiting for the two Sacred Ancestors to catch up. How could he rest assured if he could not kill the two Sacred Ancestors? Luli flew on, searching for more strange places. In the next few months, Luli wandered around, searching for strange places. In the following 3 months, Luli found more than a dozen strange places. There was a huge continent with all sorts of strange beasts on it. These beasts were of average strength, with the strongest being at the overlord level. They were not much of a threat to Saint Emperors. He also found a pit in midair with black flames in it. The flames were horrifying, but they could not harm Sacred Emperors. They could not burn the two Sacred Ancestors to death. The strangest place was a wind tunnel. Not only could the wind tunnel be used to strangle space, but it could also attack souls. Luli almost fell victim to it, but it was still useless to the Sacred Ancestors. The souls of the two Sacred Ancestors were too strong. Luli also found a ball of thunder. There was a huge ball in the void that could release horrifying thunderbolt. It was not powerful enough to hurt the two Sacred Ancestors. Sacred Ancestors were so powerful that regular dangerous places could not threaten them. Therefore, it was difficult to find such a place. The two Sacred Ancestors were careful. Even if Luli entered a dangerous place, they would not go in. They would only wait outside so that Luli could not do anything. Luli had no other choice but to keep searching. He did not know where he was now. He wandered around to see if he could find a good place. It was easy to get rid of the two Sacred Ancestors, but not to trap them. He wandered around aimlessly for another month. Suddenly, Luli's eyes glowed. He saw some palaces and pavilions in the void up ahead. Those palaces were surrounded by a mystical aura. They looked like immortal palaces. Immortal palaces. Luli saw the illusion again. He knew the way back to the third heaven. At the very least, he could find it nearby. It was only a matter of time. The thing was, even if he found the way back, it would be pointless. If he dared to go back, the two Sacred Ancestors would follow him. By then, humans at the third heaven would suffer. Should I go to the Immortal Palace and have a look? An idea came to Luli's mind. Last time, he wanted to go back. But at that time, he was in a hurry to go home. He did not have the time nor the courage to do so. Now, he had the Holy Mountain, which was strong in defense. More importantly, there were two Sacred Ancestors behind him. If there were powerful warriors over there, it should not be a problem to kill the two Sacred Ancestors. Sacred Ancestor Yuan seemed to be with them. Sacred Ancestor Guang must be in their interspatial artifact even if he survived. In other words, if he could kill the 4 Sacred Ancestors, it would be worth it even if he died. Let's go to the Palace of Immortals. Luli was determined. The Holy Mountain flew toward the Palace of Immortals in a blur. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leader's Mobile Version. Chapter 3008. The place Luli arrived at should be near the second one. This one was larger than the third one. Luli believed it was the second one. He was afraid to go in, but now he was looking forward to it. He flew in that direction, and the 2 Sacred Ancestors behind him also discovered the sea of stars in the distance, and also saw the mirage. The 2 Sacred Ancestors were taken aback. They knew about this sea of stars and they knew how terrifying it was. Han Tian, do you want to go with us? Sacred Ancestor Yun was hesitating. He seemed to have remembered something and was panicking. Sacred Ancestor Tian made up his mind and said, "We must go. Given Lu Li's abilities, he can be killed in there. Once he is killed, our sacred mountain will be taken by powerful warriors over there. By then, it will be impossible to take it back." Seeing that Sacred Ancestor Yun was still hesitating, Sacred Ancestor Tian said, "The sacred mountain is the foundation of our race. Without it, we will lose hope. We will grow weaker and eventually die out. What is the point of living when our race is dying out? If we go, we may have a chance. That sea of stars is dangerous, but we still have a chance." Sacred Ancestor Yun nodded and said, "Let's go. If we cannot take back the sacred mountain, we will die there." The two sacred ancestors sped up and went after Lu Li. Since Sacred Ancestor Tian could sense where the sacred mountain was, Lu Li would not be able to escape. No matter where he went, they would be able to track him down. As long as the sacred mountain was not in the hands of powerful warriors, they still had hope. The sacred mountain was so far away. Lu Li could see the sea of stars from the distance. However, he had been flying for half a month and yet, he was nowhere near it. He felt it was still far away. The sacred mountain was moving at a slower speed, but it was still faster than an average Saint King, which was amazing. After flying for half a month, Lu Li could have reached the Wind Continent from the Flying Fire Continent. How come he was still nowhere near that sea of stars? Is it an illusion? That sea of stars doesn't exist? Lu Li was uncertain. There were many strange things in the endless void. It was not unusual for some illusions to appear. Lu Li did not believe it. He flew the sacred mountain on. What happened next shocked him. After flying for another half a month, he felt the sea of stars was still so far away. He had never gotten closer. Hee. Sacred Ancestor Tian and Sacred Ancestor Yun sneered. Lu Li did not know, but they did. There was a natural formation outside the sea of stars. If one did not know how to crack it, he or she would never be able to enter the sea of stars. Sacred Ancestor Yun rolled his eyes and said, "Should we guide him in?" Sacred Ancestor Yun thought it was impossible for them to catch up with Lu Li, so he might as well bring Lu Li in. There were many powerful warriors in there. Maybe they could have a chance to conquer the sacred mountain. No. Sacred Ancestor Tian shook his head and said, "Lu Li is not stupid. If we lead him on purpose, he may not go in. Let him find his own way. It would be better if we wander outside for a few decades and wait for Sacred Ancestor Yuan and Hanguang to wake up." "Alright." Sacred Ancestor Yun didn't say anything else and continued his pursuit. After a moment's thought, Sacred Ancestor Tian entered his spatial divine item to heal the two sacred ancestors. Another half a month passed. Finally, Lu Li felt something was not right. There was either a powerful formation here or the sea of stars was an illusion. Lu Li was lost in his thoughts. Several days later, he noticed something. In the void nearby there was some vague mist. It was dark and the mist was faint. Lu Li did not notice it at first. The existence of the mist made Lu Li wonder if this was an illusion or not. Was the sea of stars an illusion created by the mist? That shouldn't be the case. Lu Li thought for a moment and continued to analyze and observe. After investigating for more than 10 days, he finally found some clues. Lu Li was not good at rune formations, but he knew something from what he had seen and heard. He could tell that something was wrong with the mist. There was something mysterious in it. Therefore, there must be some kind of formation in the mist. Lu Li told Blood Fairy. Blood Fairy thought about it and said, "Master, take a look around and tell me what you see." "I will take a look." "Okay." Lu Li wandered around. He used the trace of Tao to sense around and told Blood Fairy what he saw. 5 or 6 days later Blood Fairy said, "Okay, Master, this is enough. This is a formation of nature. I have a general idea. Let me study it." "Okay." Lu Li was relieved. Blood Fairy's words meant everything was settled. He waited patiently for 7 days. Finally Blood Fairy said, Okay, Master, watch me. I will take you to crack this formation and we will enter that sea of stars. Okay. Luli was looking forward to it. The holy mountain dashed forward. But this time, it was different. The holy mountain was not moving in a straight line. Instead, it was moving in circles, round and round. He has seen through it. This young man is very skilled in rune formations. Sacred Ancestor Yun exclaimed. Back then, it took them hundreds of years to figure out the formation of rune formations here. How could Luli see through it in such a short time? One round and then another. After a few hundred rounds, the mist in front of them actually became extremely thick, and the scenery was completely invisible. Most importantly, their divine sense was restricted here, and they couldn't detect anything. Master, we are about to go out. Blood Fairy's words startled Luli. He was nervous. Could it be the real immortal realm? Would there be many powerful immortals? Would he be killed as soon as he came out? The holy mountain slowed down after passing through the thick mist. After traveling for thousands of miles, the view became clear. Luli stood on the pond and looked into the distance. He saw many huge stars. He could not tell how large those stars were. They were all covered up by the golden glow. He could not see what was inside. This was indeed a sea of stars. At a glance, there were at least tens of thousands of stars of different sizes. The distance between them did not seem very far from here, but it would take at least a few months to fly from the sacred mountain between two stars. The smallest star is probably as big as the third heavenly layer, right? Luli was shocked. He felt the smallest star was as large as the third heaven. Were there tens of thousands of universes larger than the third heaven? And all of these realms are connected into one? At this moment, Luli was afraid to go closer. There were so many universes. How many powerful warriors would there be? Maybe there were as many as the hairs on a cow. Would he be killed instantly if he went in? Whoosh! Saint Ancestor and Saint Ancestor Guang were catching up. Luli made up his mind and asked Blood Fairy to fly the holy mountain forward. Death was not a big deal. It would be worth it if he could kill those Saint Ancestors here. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leader's Mobile Version. Chapter 3009. Even though Luli could see the stars, it took him 5 or 6 days to get close to one of them. He did not rush into the golden light around the stars. Instead, he flew around the stars slowly. He felt that those golden streams of light were very dangerous. If he were to approach them recklessly, he might be strangled to death. Luli flew around the golden light for more than a day without finding anything. The two sacred ancestors followed him from a distance and didn't rush in. They were not in a hurry. They were waiting for Luli to go in first. The golden light had a weak spot. They believed that Luli could find the entrance when he found the weak spot. Half a day later, Luli found an entrance. It seemed to be a weak spot. It shouldn't be difficult for him to go in. Luli didn't go in. He wandered around and found another entrance after half a day, but it was not as good as the first one. Luli thought about it and decided to go in from the previous entrance. Since he was here, he must have a try. Whether he could survive or not, he had to go in and have a look. Luli had made up his mind and didn't care about anything else. He made the sacred mountain the smallest it could be and slowly flew towards the golden stream. There was a small tunnel here that was meandering and extending inside. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Luli finally noticed that the world in front of him had changed. It had become a vast land. Down below was a boundless desert. Looking down, he could only see a boundless expanse. It really is a universe. Luli was shocked. He sensed that the Xian Qi in heaven and earth was more than 100 times richer than in the third plane. This world felt even more vast and boundless, even more ancient and vicissitudes. However, there were no palaces or buildings down there. Instead, it was a barren land. There was no sign of human habitation. It was desolate. Luli thought about it and flew the holy mountain downward at once. It would be troublesome if someone saw him. The sacred mountain flew down quickly and went underground. Luli checked around to make sure that there was no one around. Then, he went up to check. Not long afterward, Luli saw 2 black dots above him. 2 sacred ancestors had come in. Luli was relieved to see that the 2 sacred ancestors were here. He flew the holy mountain to the distance. He could use psychic power here. He used psychic power to the limit to check everything around him. After flying for an hour, Luli didn't see any living beings. Not only were there no warriors, he didn't even see any beasts. Luli was doubtful. Was this really the immortal palace? Why was it even more desolate than the third heaven? After the time for 1 incense stick to burn, Luli finally found signs of human habitation. There were many people, or more precisely, humanoid monsters. Luli found a huge valley up ahead. There were teams of soldiers patrolling around the valley. The soldiers were of the same size as humans, but a bit taller. The difference was that they had spikes on their backs and horns on their heads. Their foreheads were protruding and most importantly, they had 4 arms. These strange people were all wearing cyan armor, holding a spear in one hand and a spear in the other. They were quickly patrolling the vicinity of the valley. The auras of these strange people weren't particularly strong. They were only at the 5th tribulation level, but all of them were at the peak of the 5th tribulation level. The captains were all lords. There were about 1,000 of them, and they looked like the guards guarding this valley? Very strong. Luli was taken aback. All the sergeants were at the peak of the 5th calamity, and the team leader was a lord. In that case, the commander would be at the emperor realm. The expert was definitely a saint emperor. Did that mean that there were many saint emperors of this strange race? Luli circled around but didn't do anything rash. He sneaked around and went to other places to check. 4-armed race. Not long after Luli left, Sacred Ancestor Tion and Sacred Ancestor Yun came over. They took a look and felt bitter. Sacred Ancestor Tion said, "The 4-armed race ranks among the top 30 of the 10,000 races. Is this their territory? If our sacred mountain is in the hands of the 4-armed race, we will never be able to take it down." Luckily, that punk didn't do anything rash. Sacred Ancestor Yun exhaled and said, if he had gone on a killing spree and incurred the wrath of the 4-armed race, he would not have escaped death. Come on, let's go. If he is being hunted down by the powerful warriors here, we will seize the chance to take the sacred mountain and leave. Sacred Ancestor Tion waved his hand, his expression serious. The 4-armed race was too powerful, and they had never thought of fighting back. According to the information they had obtained many years ago, the 4-armed race was ranked 28th among the races, and was an extremely powerful race. Of course, it had been so many years. Whether the 4-armed race had become stronger or weaker, they could not say for sure. Anyhow, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Even if the 4-armed race had declined, they were still not a race they could provoke. Once they were targeted by the 4-armed race, they would not be able to run away. Luli continued his search. After half a day, he found another valley. Outside the valley, there were also teams of 4-armed warriors. The weakest among them was at the peak of the 5th tribulation realm. All of them were powerful. Fortunately, the sacred mountain didn't leak any energy. If the sacred mountain didn't move, it would be no different from a rock. Therefore, it was easy for Luli to search. The 4-armed race didn't notice him. Still, he didn't move. His goal was to kill those sacred ancestors, but it didn't mean that he wanted to court death. Team leaders were all lords. There must be many great Emperor Realm warriors of this race, and many Saint Emperors. Luli might have the sacred mountain, but that didn't guarantee his safety. Luli kept on flying and exploring. After a day, he heard some noises ahead. Luli landed the sacred mountain at once. He told Blood Fairy to stop controlling the sacred mountain and turn it into a regular rock. Now, the sacred mountain had a radius of 10 feet. In the wild, it was no different from a rock. From the distance, a huge frigid iron battleship whooshed over. It was so fast. A moment ago, it was tens of thousands of miles away. In the blink of an eye, it had passed by Luli. So many powerful warriors. Luli didn't dare to check. But he sensed that there were at least 4 or 5 great Emperor Realm warriors on the battleship, all of them of the 4-armed race. This battleship made of frigid iron was fast. It might be as fast as an average Saint Emperor. Where is this place? Luli was surprised. The 4-armed race was so powerful that they were far stronger than the races at the 3rd plane. Did the worlds above the 4th plane not collapse? Was this world, or this universe, actually the 4th plane? There were tens of thousands of worlds here. Did it mean that there were tens of thousands of powerful races? Luli felt this place was stronger than the endless ruins. Outside the sea of stars, Luli saw a mirage. There were many palaces. Where were they? If this was a powerful world in the universe, then were there immortals here? At this moment, Luli felt the world was boundless and there were too many secrets in it. Nobody could give Luli an answer. He had to keep on flying and exploring. Before he had a clear picture of the situation, he wouldn't move. Otherwise, he would lose his life here. Please remember the domain name of this book. 3rd Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 30:10. 1.5 months. Luli had been in this strange world for 1.5 months. He had gathered a lot of information. The 4-armed race was not the only race in this world. There were 2 other strange races. Of course, he had not explored all of them. So far, he had only found 3 races. The other 2 races were humanoid. One of them was tall and muscular, looking like small giants. Their bodies were covered in black scales, and even their faces were covered in tiny black scales. Their eyes were green, and they looked quite strange. The other race was similar to humans. At first glance, Luli would think they were humans. But on closer inspection, there were differences. This race had curved noses, pointy ears, thick lips and protruding eyes. Their faces were almost square. Luli didn't see any round or oval faces. At first, Luli glanced over. All the races looked the same, as if they were made from the same mold. 4-armed race, dark armor race and square-faced race. Luli gave the 3 races 3 names. Luli saw that the 3 races were all warriors and each of them was guarding a place with resources and treasures. It had been more than a month and Luli hadn't found a single city. Apart from the places with resources, he saw nothing else. Every now and then, he would see some winter iron battleships with powerful warriors on board. Luli had seen more than 40 Imperial Realm warriors. Saint Emperors had not been found yet. That being said, when Saint Emperors hid their chi and energy, they could not be sensed unless Luli was close. Luli was confused. The 2 Saint Emperors had been following him but he didn't know how to kill them. He was not sure yet so he didn't dare to attack recklessly. If a large group of Saint Emperors and Saint Emperors came out, he wouldn't even know how he died. Since he was not sure, he had to keep on exploring. After all, the Holy Mountain was safe. As long as he was not spotted by Saint Emperors, the average Saint Emperors would not be able to track him down. Luli's soul was strong now. He could sense even the slightest movement. More importantly, there were no warriors of the 3 races in the wild. Not even scouts had found him. Therefore, it was safe for him to fly in the wild. More than a month later, Luli finally found a city. It was a huge city, about the same size as the Celestial City in the Endless Ruins. Moreover, these buildings were all very tall. They were not the type of palaces or immortal palaces, but just ordinary castles. However, the style was different from that of the 3rd layer of heaven. There were very complicated patterns and strange shapes on it. It looked quite exotic. What surprised Luli was that there were people from all three races in the city. They seemed to be living together. Luli sensed that there were at least hundreds of thousands of them in the city. For such a large city, a population of several 100,000 was pitifully small. Apart from this city, Luli didn't see any other cities or other strange places. Apart from the countless resources and treasures, this was the only city. Luli really didn't know what to do. Go into the city? He didn't have the guts. Attack a place with precious resources? There wasn't much point in doing so. What if they didn't go after sacred ancestor Tion and the others, but came after him instead? Whatever. Luli made up his mind and made up his mind. The races here were too strong for him to provoke. The longer he stayed here, the easier it would be for something to go wrong. After he attacked a place with precious resources, he would fly away at once. If worse came to worst, he would fly away from the star. When he was sure that the two sacred ancestors were here, he could find a way back to the third layer of heaven. Since he had made up his mind, Luli had to make some preparations. First of all, he had to choose a target. He thought about it and decided to go for the four-armed race. He felt this race was strong and had the most resources and treasures. Luli flew the holy mountain away. He chose a place not too far away from the city. It would take some time for the powerful warriors of the four-armed race to get here, but not too long. After choosing the place, Luli began to build something nearby. He didn't build anything too complicated, just a one-way teleportation formation. This teleportation formation could teleport people to a distance of millions of miles. After the teleportation formation would explode. Luli didn't want to leave any trace of where he went. Also, he wanted to mislead the four-armed race into thinking that it was the two sacred ancestors who attacked them. After making sure, Luli dashed out from his body and put away the holy mountain. Then, he dashed toward the valley like a sly fox. Outside the valley, there were nearly 1,000 warriors patrolling. All of them were at the peak of the fifth tribulation, and the leaders were three lords. But Luli sensed that they were not particularly powerful. Luli put on a disguise and put on some sackcloth. He was barefooted and his hair was dyed white. He took out a mask that could change his appearance at will. He changed his appearance to that of sacred ancestor Tion. Even though there was a difference, he could fool them. Move! Luli was only 3,000 miles away. He didn't need to hide anymore. He dashed over and arrived in an instant. He released the wind soul skill. Thousands of soul needles blew toward the hundreds of warriors in a gust of wind. Ah, woo woo, the hundreds of four-armed race warriors hugged their heads and rolled around. Luli dashed over and took out a saber to cut at them. Boom! Luli's strength was overwhelming. Every time he moved, a warrior would be smashed into a pulp. Two lords came over. Luli released Swords of Soul twice, and the two lords rolled around in midair as well. Boom 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 boom. Luli killed one at a time. In the time for a dozen breaths, the hundreds of warriors were all killed, including the two lords. Before Luli could finish, more and more four-armed race warriors rushed out from the distance and the valley. There was also a powerful warrior of the four-armed race, roaring. Formation. Luli ignored the rest of the warriors and the three lords. He released formation and attacked the powerful warrior of the four-armed race. This warrior of the four-armed race didn't seem to be particularly powerful. After the formation was released, he stopped moving in midair. Now that the four-armed race warrior was defeated, the rest were easier to deal with. Luli began his bloody slaughter. There were only more than 2,000 warriors in the valley, including the powerful ones. Luli cut through them like watermelons. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Luli had killed all the warriors of the four-armed race, including the powerful warrior of the four-armed race, apart from the one lord that Luli deliberately left alive. Time to go. Luli threw a glance to the powerful warrior of the four-armed race that was pretending to be dead. He flew to the distance and found the one-way teleportation formation he had built. An hour later, Sacred Ancestor Tion and Sacred Ancestor Yun arrived. When they saw the corpses strewn all over the valley, a bitter look appeared on their faces. Luli had taken action. The four-armed race would be enraged. They wondered if this was their chance. Or was this the beginning of their doom? If Luli was killed and the sacred mountain was taken away by the four-armed race, then they would be in trouble. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 30:11. What Sacred Ancestor Tion and Sacred Ancestor Yun did not expect was that Luli was not killed, and they were in trouble instead. 5 days later, they found scouts of the four-armed race. Those scouts did not find Tion and Yun, but they did have a portrait in their hands. Tion and Yun were trembling with anger after they saw the portrait. The portrait was of Tion. Needless to say, Tion and Yun could tell that Luli had disguised himself as Tion. Also, Luli had spared a witness to frame them. What should we do? Yun was panicking. The four-armed race would be enraged. A large number of scouts and powerful warriors would come out. By then, Tion and Yun would not be able to run away. The best thing to do now was to immediately fly away from this realm and escape from the other realms. But then, what was the point of chasing after Luli for such a long distance? Without the Holy Mountain, what was the point of going back? Catch up with Luli and stay with him. Drag him down with us, Tion said with hatred. The only way was to get closer to Luli. They were here to use the powerful warriors here to subdue Luli and then take the Holy Mountain. Now, the powerful warriors of the four-armed race were about to make a move. This was a crisis for them as well as an opportunity. Therefore, Tion decided to take a risk. If push came to shove, he would fight his way out. He believed the four-armed race would not have so many Saint Emperors at the beginning. They sped up and went after Luli. Though Luli had put the Holy Mountain in his interspatial ring, Tion could still sense it as long as it was on Luli. Luli did not ride the Holy Mountain, which would make him a bigger target. But once he sensed something was wrong, he would go into the Holy Mountain at once. He moved forward in the wild at a moderate speed. He was waiting for the four-armed race to find Tion. When he was sure that the powerful warriors of the four-armed race had killed the Saint Emperors, he could leave. He also discovered the four-armed race's scouts along the way. The four-armed race's reaction was very fast. In just 5 days, the four-armed race's scouts had found their way here. Since Luli had been using the trace of Tao at all times, he was very perceptive. The scouts could not find him at close range. Several hours later, Luli heard a slight noise coming from behind him. Without any hesitation, he took out the Holy Mountain and dashed in. 2 great demon ancestors. Luli sensed that it was the 2 Asmodean ancestors. He grinned. Instead of speeding up, he maintained the same distance with the 2 Asmodean ancestors. The 2 sacred ancestors did not increase their speed. The sacred mountain was much faster than them, so it was useless for them to increase their speed. Divine Ancestor Tion pondered for a moment before releasing his aura to attract the scouts of the four-armed race. The moment his aura spread out, the four-armed race scouts in the distance were immediately alerted. 7 or 8 scouts quickly flew over. Woo woo woo! 2 of the scouts flew into the air and saw the situation. They immediately let out a sharp cry, attracting the attention of the scouts from all directions. Humph! Sacred Ancestor Tion and Sacred Ancestor Yun snorted coldly, then turned into shadows and disappeared into thin air. Having lost track of the 2 sacred ancestors, the scouts naturally locked onto the flying sacred mountain up ahead. F***ck, these 2 old things are so cunning. Luli cursed when he noticed this. They alerted the scouts and then turned into shadows so that the scouts would think they were inside the sacred mountain. In this way, all the scouts' attention would be diverted to him. At this moment, Luli wanted to fly the sacred mountain to the sky. However, that would make him a bigger target and it would not be easy to find the exit. Luli gave up on the idea. Run, he sped up the sacred mountain. Since he had offended the four-armed race, he would not stay in their territory. He would go to another race's territory and stay there for a while. He would run when he had the chance. As soon as the Saint Mountain sped up, the scouts of the four-armed race were immediately dumbfounded. The Saint Mountain's speed hadn't reached its limit yet. It was only at the speed of a Saint Emperor. It immediately shot through the sky and disappeared into the northern horizon. The strange cries of the scouts were heard. The four-armed race had used a special method to transmit the situation here. Many scouts were on the move. The sacred mountain alerted the scouts of the four-armed race along the way. This time, the four-armed race had sent out many scouts, at least tens of thousands of them. The four-armed race was taking this matter seriously. How can there be so many four-armed race? Luli saw scouts of the four-armed race everywhere. He frowned. There were only hundreds of thousands of people in the city, and each of the three races had over 100,000. Did the four-armed race send out more than half of their warriors? Also, it had only been a few days. The scouts were all at the peak of the fifth tribulation, and they were not fast. How could they have spread out in such a short time? Luli did not have much time to think. An hour later, two frigid iron battleships whooshed over. Before they got close to the sacred mountain, thousands of warriors and 8 Saint Emperor Realm warriors came out. The four-armed race is strong. Luli sensed that 2 of the Saint Emperor Realm warriors were as strong as Emperor Candle Heaven. The four-armed race had sent out warriors at the peak of the Saint Emperor Realm. The four-armed race had many Saint Emperors. Whoosh! Luli didn't get entangled with these emperors because he didn't want to expose the powerful defense of the sacred mountain. Otherwise, it would attract the attention of the four-armed race's Saint Emperor. At that time, it would attract the pursuit of some powerful Saint Emperors, which would make things even worse. Luli steered the sacred mountain to turn around and sped up again. Turning around would have taken some time as the Saint Emperor Realm warriors were getting closer. However, when the sacred mountain sped up, the attacks from the Saint Emperor Realm warriors could not catch up. Whoosh! The sacred mountain made an arc and disappeared into the distant sky, leaving the Saint Emperor Realm warriors of the four-armed race looking at each other. One of the Saint Emperor Realm warriors thought for a moment and said, "I think we have to ask the patriarchs to take action. We cannot catch up with this strange treasure." The four-armed race spoke in the ancient language, similar to the language spoken at the abyss of demons and the endless ruins of gods. One of the four-armed race's horns lit up, an array of black light shot up to the sky. Buzzing. After a moment, the nearby space began to tremble and a blurry figure appeared. The four-armed race nearby all knelt down and shouted, "Greetings to the 13 patriarchs! What is going on?" A cold and old voice rang out. The strongest emperor-ranked powerhouse immediately reported what had happened. The 13 patriarchs thought for a moment and said, "I understand. Continue to control the warriors to track him and lock onto his position. Leave the rest to us. Whoever dares to kill a disciple of our race must die, no matter who he is. The dignity of the four-armed race must not be trampled on." Also, the 13 patriarchs paused and added, "There is more than one of them. There must be other experts. Spread out and report to me immediately if there is even the slightest movement. I will report this matter to the race headquarters. Soon we will seal off the flying meteor star. None of these foreign races will be able to escape." Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Masters Mobile Version. Chapter 30:12. 17 Days. Luli had been on the run for 17 days. Along the way, he ran into many scouts, but no powerful warriors intercepted him. He had arrived at the territory of the square-faced race. Luli calmed down a bit. The powerful warriors of the four-armed race would not come here to hunt him down. Soon, he realized that he was overthinking. The square-faced race had sent out many scouts as well. As soon as he arrived, he saw many scouts. Move! Luli thought for a while and decided to leave this universe. Now that the three races were on the move, there would be no place for him in this universe. If he didn't leave now, he would be trapped here forever. He flew the holy mountain up. When he was 30,000 miles up, the space suddenly trembled. Then, an old man of the four-armed race showed up. Now that you are here, don't leave. Stay here. The old man of the four-armed race looked at the holy mountain coldly and said. He was speaking the ancient language, so Luli could understand. Luli thought about it and said, Lord, I broke in by mistake. I didn't kill your people. It was the two powerful warriors that were hunting me. Every debt has a debtor. If you want revenge, go to them. I am not with them. The old man was slightly startled and asked, What race are those two from? Where are you from? Do you have any specific information about them? If you tell me honestly, I can let you live. We are all from the sacred abyss race. Luli answered after some thoughts. We are from the same race. Those two are our forefathers. I did something wrong in our race, and they are hunting me down. Lord, I am only at the Emperor realm. I don't have the ability to kill them even if I wanted to. Sacred abyss race? Never heard of it. The old man shook his head and asked, What else do you have to say? This information is not enough to trade for your life. If you have nothing else to say, then I will take action. Yes, Luli said with determination, the two forefathers must be nearby. They have been hunting me down. I am sure that they are within a radius of 300,000 miles. They can go invisible. It will be difficult for you to find them. With a thought, the old man swept his gaze downwards. His powerful divine will also swept downwards. Right at that moment, the holy mountain glowed and flew into the sky like a shooting star. Luli didn't expect the powerful warrior of the four-armed race to let him go. What Luli said just now was to distract the warrior so that he could seize the chance to escape. The speed of the sacred mountain was too fast. In the blink of an eye, it had reached the void. If it went any higher, it would be the golden circle. He quickly scanned the area with his spiritual will, trying to find a way out. Over there. His luck was pretty good. He actually found a weak spot nearby. He quickly controlled the sacred mountain and flew towards it. At this moment, a cracking sound rang out from behind. Following that, a huge arm reached out and grabbed at the sacred mountain. Hee hee. Luli sneered. He told Blood Fairy not to worry and flew on. The huge hand grabbed the holy mountain and tried to pull it back, but how could it shake the holy mountain with its strength? The holy mountain struggled free and quickly disappeared from the spatial gap, flying towards the endless void. Courting death. The patriarch of the four-armed race was enraged. He went after Luli at once. At the same time, he let out some shrill screams, and the other four-armed race warriors responded. Luli dashed out from the void through the weak spot in the space. Without hesitation, he flew out of the sea of stars. There were too many powerful warriors here. Luli's abilities were not enough. More importantly, he belonged to an alien race here. He could be tracked down easily. The sacred mountain was a treasure that could attract unwanted attention. Whoosh! In the distance, space began to tremble. Two cold steel battleships whooshed over like phantoms from the void. Seeing that the way ahead was blocked, Luli made up his mind and said to Blood Fairy, Go as fast as you can and to the left. Buzzing, the sacred mountain glowed and then sped up to the extreme. It flew to the left in a straight line and soon vanished into the void. On the two battleships were the powerful warriors of the four-armed race. On each of the battleships was a saint king, more than a dozen great emperors, and hundreds of lords. As the sacred mountain disappeared to the left, all the powerful warriors were taken aback. The sacred mountain was so fast, much faster than even their patriarchs. Treasure! Soon, the warrior's eyes glowed. The sacred mountain must be a treasure if it could move so fast. Everything else aside, the sacred mountain's speed alone made it a piece of treasure. Go after it. Send a message to the patriarchs outside. Let's stop it. A deep voice came from one of the warships. The two warships shook violently, and then suddenly burrowed into the void. In the next second, they appeared 1,000,000 miles away, directly shuttling through the void, chasing after the sacred mountain. Luli flew to the left for another 300,000 miles. When he was about to turn and fly out of the sea of stars, he saw another battleship coming. Clearly, there was a saint ancestor on the battleship. **T. How many saint kings does the four-armed race have? Luli cursed. He made up his mind and told Blood Fairy to fly into the sea of stars. The outer perimeter was sealed off. It would be difficult to break out. Who could tell what kind of traps they had? Luli would have to go in. There were so many universes in there. Luli did not believe that all of them belonged to the four-armed race. The sacred mountain flew on quickly. This time, they were not intercepted. Luli didn't have time to worry. He asked Blood Fairy to fly the sacred mountain as fast as he could. The sacred mountain was fast. Even though the four-armed race battleships were traveling in the void, they could not catch up. In the blink of an eye, they lost track of Luli. Whoosh! 6 hours later, two people came out from the universe. It was Sacred Ancestor Tion and Sacred Ancestor Yun. They were still pale. Sacred Ancestor Yun's robe was torn, and his hair was unkempt. He was in a sorry state. When Sacred Ancestor Tion came out, he tried to check. He was even more upset. Pointing to the sea of stars, he said, "That bastard Luli is going in. Then what should we do?" Sacred Ancestor Yun was panicking. Just now, the two of them ran into two patriarchs of the four-armed race. Though the two patriarchs were defeated, Sacred Ancestor Yun and Sacred Ancestor Yun were injured. The four-armed race was powerful. They must have many saint kings. If they stayed in the Sea of Stars, they might lose their lives here. What else can we do? Sacred Ancestor Tion made up his mind. We must go in. I think Sacred Ancestor Yuan is about to wake up. Let's go in and find a place to hide. When Sacred Ancestor Yuan wakes up, he may have a way. What is more, pointing to the Sea of Stars, Sacred Ancestor Tion said, "If we go this way, we may be caught up with. You know that it is easy to come in, but it is difficult to go out. If we're intercepted, we'll be dead for sure." Then let's go. Sacred Ancestor Yun glared at where Luli went. If Luli falls into our hands, we will torture him for tens of thousands of years before we kill him. P.S. I have a cold and a headache. Only 2 chapters left today. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leader's mobile version. Chapter 3013. In the endless void, a stone flew across the sky like a shooting star. Hundreds of thousands of miles behind the stone, several frigid steel warships were chasing after it. Not only behind, but there were frigid steel warships coming from 3 other directions as well. The four-armed race had mobilized many powerful warriors, not only for revenge, but also for the treasure, the sacred mountain. Behind them were Sacred Ancestor Tion and Sacred Ancestor Tion. They were also being chased by experts and armies. The four-armed race was also a powerful overlord race in this area. How could they not retaliate after being slapped in the face by a few foreign races? If word got out, it would be a huge blow to the reputation of the four-armed race. By then, every race could come and trample on them. It was a pity that after half a month, so many powerful warriors had failed to capture Luli. Sacred Ancestor Tion and Great Ancestor Yun were not captured, either. The 2 sacred ancestors could turn into shadows, and they were good at stealth. The powerful warriors of the four-armed race almost intercepted them several times, but they managed to escape in the end. Sacred Ancestor Tion was powerful. He ranked second in the Asmodean's abyss, and he had lived for hundreds of thousands of years. Naturally, he had many ways to protect himself. It was not easy to kill him. Luli was troubled after being chased for half a month. He had steered the sacred mountain as fast as he could, but every once in a while, a frigid steel warship would appear in front of him. Had the four-armed race sent out many powerful warriors to search for him, or could they still track him down? He could not get rid of the four-armed race. There was a huge star up ahead, but Luli was afraid to go in. What if there was a powerful race in there? What if this was the territory of the four-armed race? But if he did not go in, he would be a big target in the void. What if a powerful warrior of the four-armed race came out and trapped the sacred mountain? Years ago, Sacred Ancestor Yuan and the other three built a blood demon formation that trapped the sacred mountain. Therefore, if a powerful Saint Emperor of the four-armed race was here, Luli would not even be able to run away. Let's go in and have a look. Luli made up his mind and flew around the huge star. He would go in and have a look. If there were many powerful warriors in there, he could come out immediately. There were too many lice to be afraid of, so it didn't matter. 4 hours later, Luli found a weak spot in space. He flew the holy mountain in easily. As soon as he was in, he used psychic power to check. This realm was also desolate, with not a single city below. Luli explored for a while. Then, he flew the holy mountain down and began to move around. Luli didn't want to stay here. He just wanted to use this place to escape. He was very nervous on the road, paying attention to the situation around him. After searching for 2 hours, Luli found that there was only one strange race that occupied this place, and it was a race that was very similar to humans. The only difference was that they all had wings on their backs and all of them were handsome. Their wings were all white and they liked to wear white robe. They held white spears in their hands, and they all looked like heavenly soldiers and generals, looking very mighty and imposing. Luli tried his best to keep a low profile. He traveled in the wild, and he would leave at once at the slightest sign of trouble. He would stay away from any warriors. 3 days later, more than a dozen frigid iron warships gathered outside the realm. They had been searching for 3 days but found no trace of Luli. They all knew that Luli must have entered this realm. They didn't go in rashly. Instead, they gathered outside. The 8 patriarchs of the four-armed race gathered together to discuss a plan. According to our investigation, that holy abyss race must have entered the rain-sun universe. One of the elders spoke. The other elders nodded slightly, all of them confirming this point of view. The other patriarchs were not happy. One of them said, "The rain-sun universe is the territory of the holy rock race. They have never been on good terms with us. This is going to be troublesome. We have 2 options." Another patriarch said, "Either we sneak in, capture that punk and leave at once, or we go to the holy rock race and pay a price to capture that punk. Negotiation is pointless." One of the patriarchs with the most profound energy said, "Last time, we already had a big conflict with the holy rock race. If we go to negotiate, the holy rock race will rip us off. I think we should sneak in. After all, there are not many powerful warriors here. We can go in, finish our job and leave. Even if we are discovered, we can let the holy rock race make a scene." "Yes, I agree. We don't have to beg them. Begging them will only put us in their hands. The holy rock race is stronger than us, but we are not afraid of them. Sneak in. I agree. I don't think the punk will hide in there forever if we wait outside. How about we wait here for a couple of months and see if he comes out?" Most of the patriarchs agreed to sneak in. In the end, the most powerful one decided that several of them would sneak in. They would come out as soon as they captured Luli. It wouldn't matter even if the holy rock race found out. After all, as long as they didn't kill warriors of the holy rock race, there wouldn't be a war. One of the 8 patriarchs stayed behind to patrol the area while the others sneaked in. They were good at tracking. Luli didn't dare to fly at full speed. Therefore, in just over a day, Luli had sensed that there were pursuers. Let's go. Without any hesitation, Luli flew the holy mountain at full speed. The holy mountain was so fast that Luli had lost the pursuers. There is a land of resources up ahead. After the time for several incense sticks to burn, Luli sensed that there were warriors of the Holy Rock race. He dashed out, generated a hand shadow, and smashed at the land of resources. Who dares to attack? How dare you? Many powerful warriors flew out from the land of resources. A warrior of the great Emperor realm smashed Luli's hand shadow. However, by the time they looked around, Luli had run away. That warrior of the great Emperor realm didn't see Luli, but he did notice several patriarchs of the four-armed race. Without any hesitation, he crushed a white token in his hand to send out a warning. Oh no, we are spotted. The 7 patriarchs were frightened. Unless they could kill all the warriors of the Holy Rock race in the valley, powerful warriors of the Holy Rock race would catch up soon. By then, there might be a fierce battle. After all, they were the ones sneaking into the territory of the Holy Rock race. What should we do? The patriarchs looked at the most powerful one, the 13. The latter made up his mind and said, "Burn your divine blood and go after him as fast as you can. Let's see if we can take the mountain before the powerful warriors of the Holy Rock race get here. If not, retreat as soon as the powerful warriors of the Holy Rock race come." Okay. The patriarchs' essence blood surged. Golden flames burst out from their bodies. Their energy became horrifying as well. The 7 patriarchs sped up and chased after Luli. They were as fast as the holy mountain. This was a special skill of the four-armed race. It was also the reason why the four-armed race could dominate the universe. After burning their spiritual blood, their abilities could be increased by 10 times for a short time. That being said, after an hour of fighting, their vitality would be sapped and they would need years to recover. Please remember the original domain name of this book. Third Sect Leader's mobile version. Chapter 30:14. The 7 patriarchs sped up and went after Luli. They must have some kind of strange tracking method. In just over an hour they had caught up with Luli. Luli's heart skipped a beat when he sensed the piercing sound and the powerful chi and blood behind him. How could these powerful warriors be so fast? How could one of them be faster than the holy mountain? Wasn't this a little too abnormal? Not even sacred ancestor Yuan could compete with the holy mountain. Well, they must have used some secret skill. Luli sensed the faint golden flames around them. His heart skipped a beat. But there was nothing he could do. He was no different from an ant to a group of sacred ancestor. Luli flew the holy mountain in a straight line in the sky. He didn't go around in circles. At the same time, he used psychic power to the extreme to see if there was any favorable terrain nearby that he could take advantage of. There is a city. After the time for dozens of breaths, Luli was surprised to see a big city in front of him. There were many warriors around the city. Okay. Without any hesitation, Luli made the holy mountain the smallest it could be and flew toward the city at the top of his speed. The warriors of the Holy Rock race were alarmed. More warriors flew up from the city and many checked with psychic power. Whoosh! Soon, the 7 patriarchs caught up. To their surprise, it was a city. The patriarchs complained to themselves. There were not many powerful warriors in the city, but there were some patriarchs. Of course, they were not afraid. But did they have the courage to kill the patriarchs of the Holy Rock race? If they killed the patriarchs, a war would break out between the two races. Four-armed race? Bogang? A furious voice came from the city. Then, a powerful warrior flew up. He did not look at the holy mountain. Instead, he stared at the 13 patriarchs of the four-armed race. He glared at the 13 patriarchs and said, "How dare you come to the Rain-Yang realm? Are you trying to start a war with us?" Whoosh! The holy mountain went around the city and flew into the distance. However, none of the Holy Rock race stared at the Holy Mountain. Instead, they were all staring at the powerful warriors of the four-armed race. The Saint Mountain was isolated by divine runes, so they didn't detect that there were people inside. The speed of the Saint Mountain was also very fast. Before they could react, the experts from the four-armed race had already arrived. They were all attracted by the four-armed race's expert, and they were all furious. After all, this was the Rain-Sun realm, the Holy Rock race's territory. The great elders of the four-armed race groaned inwardly. They hadn't expected this to be a city. It would be very difficult for them to go around it. The experts of the Holy Rock race would definitely intercept them. Therefore, they only had two choices. Either they could kill all the Holy Rock race here and go after Luli. Otherwise, they could only retreat immediately and leave the Rain-Sun realm. Then, they would return and explain to the Sacred Rock race. Killing this group of people was very simple. There were only 4 senior elders here, and there were 7 of them. At this moment, they all released their innate divine abilities. If he wanted to kill these Doyens and all the soldiers in the city, it wouldn't take long. The question is it worth it? For the sake of Luli, for the sake of a piece of treasure, they would fight against the Holy Rock race to the death. How many would die in this battle? How many experts would fall? Was it worth it? The 13 senior elders thought for a while. Eventually, they made up their minds and waved their hands. Let's go. The group of powerful warriors flew to the sky. However, the powerful ones of the Holy Rock race all transformed into rocks and dashed toward the powerful warriors of the four-armed race. Piss off! The arms of the 13 senior elders lengthened and enlarged at the same time. They smashed at a powerful warrior of the Holy Rock race. That warrior was smashed down. He was covered in blood, but he survived. The 13 senior elders were strong, or else he wouldn't be ranked 13th. He had released the innate divine abilities of his race. He could defeat all the Holy Rock race warriors on the ground by himself. If he hadn't held back, that Holy Rock race warrior would have been smashed to death. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Countless members of the sacred Ping race also unleashed their innate divine abilities. Their feathers transformed into sharp arrows that ruthlessly pierced toward the four-armed race. Because they were too fast, ear-piercing screeches rose and fell, shattering one's eardrums. One by one, the senior elders of the four-armed race snorted. Their arms lengthened and expanded. They smashed away the arrows. The powerful warriors of the four-armed race didn't stop. They flew up quickly and found a weak spot in the space. They dashed out and soon disappeared. We will go after them. You report to your race at once. The injured Saint Rock race member who had been slapped down roared in anger. He charged upwards and out of the boundless void. All the Holy Rock race warriors were mad. Many flew up and some went to report. For a moment, nobody paid attention to Luli. But after a while, some Holy Rock race warriors came back to their senses. One of them said, "Didn't a stone fly here first? Where did it go?" "Yes." Another Holy Rock race warrior nodded. "That stone is fast. It must be a piece of treasure. Did the four-armed race release it? But it seems to have gone around the city. Send a team to look for it." A Lord-class expert thought for a moment, then gathered a few lieutenant commanders over and gave them instructions. Soon, hundreds of Holy Rock race warriors flew out and went after Luli. The Holy Mountain was fast. It was already millions of miles away. Luli thought about it and decided to take a detour to check. He was overjoyed to make sure that there were no pursuers. He thought about it and continued flying forward. If his guess was correct, the experts of the four-armed race and the experts with wings must have started fighting. If the two powerful races started fighting, then no one would chase after him. He would be safe for the time being. Of course, if he stayed in this place for too long, he would run into problems. There would be pursuers looking for him. Luli decided to stay here for 3 days and leave at once. As he flew, he was extremely careful along the way. Soon, 3 days passed. There were no pursuers. Without further hesitation, Luli flew the holy mountain to the sky. He left this place and checked the outside. To his surprise, there were no armies or powerful warriors of the four-armed race. He was overjoyed. He flew the holy mountain to the distance. Many battleships of the four-armed race were parked outside. However, the Holy Rock race was enraged and many powerful warriors of their own race came. Therefore, all the warriors of the four-armed race were forced to leave. The powerful warriors of the Holy Rock race went after the four-armed race as well. There were no warriors nearby. Luli flew into the sea of stars. There must be powerful warriors of the four-armed race on the periphery. Only by going in could he survive. He was able to get out because of the Holy Rock race. If it weren't for this place, he would have died. As for what would happen if he went into the Sea of Stars, would he be able to leave the Sea of Stars alive? Luli wasn't sure, but he could only take it one step at a time. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leader's Mobile Version. Chapter 30:15. Poor Sacred Ancestor Tian and Sacred Ancestor Yun had been chased by 4 Saint Kings of the four-armed race for more than a month. They ran into 2 universes, but one of them belonged to the four-armed race, and the other one was on good terms with the four-armed race. Therefore, it made no difference whether they ran or not. The 4 founding patriarchs of the four-armed race had chased them to the ends of the earth. If it weren't for the fact that Sacred Ancestor Tian was strong, they would have been killed. Luli pretended to be Sacred Ancestor Tian and attacked the four-armed race. He killed thousands of their warriors, and one of them was a warrior of the Great Emperor realm. Therefore, the four-armed race believed that the 2 sacred ancestors must be killed. As for why they went after Luli, it was because they wanted the treasure of the Holy Mountain. The 2 sacred ancestors were hiding in an abandoned universe. There was no golden glow around the universe. Instead, it was surrounded by black fog. There was no Reiki in the universe, only toxic gas. It was a dangerous place, but they had to come in or they would be killed by the powerful warriors of the four-armed race. Sacred Ancestor Tian felt his interspatial artifact was shaking. He took a look and was overjoyed. Sacred Ancestor Yuan had woken up. Sacred Ancestor Yuan was powerful. If it were Sacred Ancestor Tian, he wouldn't be able to wake up for 8 to 10 years. However, even though Sacred Ancestor Yuan had woken up, he was still very weak. Sacred Ancestor Tian told Sacred Ancestor Yun to be on guard, so he immediately flashed in and fed Sacred Ancestor Yuan some divine medicine to help his soul recover. Then, he told him about the recent situation. "You are in the infinite region?" Sacred Ancestor Yuan was pale. He raised his eyebrows and said, "There are dozens of major races and hundreds of smaller races in this galaxy. At least a dozen of the top 100 races in the endless world are here. This star field is very dangerous." "I know." Sacred Ancestor Tian sighed. "But what can we do? If we can't get the Holy Mountain back, our race will decline. We will die sooner or later, let alone rise. Therefore, Han Yun and I had to take the risk to come here." "Yes, you did the right thing." Sacred Ancestor Yuan nodded and said with a bitter smile, "Unfortunately, I am so badly injured that I can't even move, let alone fight. Under normal circumstances, it will take me at least 100 years to recover. Unless what?" Divine Ancestor Tian's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that Divine Ancestor Yuan had another way? Sacred Ancestor Yuan pondered for a moment and said, "Unless you can take me to the Red Dragon Star and find the Red Dragon race." "Crimson Dragon race?" Divine Ancestor Tian frowned and said, "What's the point of finding the Red Dragon clan? Will they help us?" And the Yuan Divine Ancestor nodded and said, "There are some things you don't know." An ancestor of the clan once came to this star field and saved a member of the Red Dragon clan's royal family. If that member of the royal family didn't die, then it would be meaningful for us to go there. This race was ranked in the 60s among the 10,000 races and was also a super large race. We can ask them to heal me and help us hunt down Luli. Oh! Divine Ancestor Tion was overjoyed. That was a race ranked in the top 100. Although it was slightly weaker than the four-armed race, it was still a colossus in this star field. Are we going there now? Divine Ancestor Tion was very excited. He wanted to go and find the Red Dragon star immediately. Divine Ancestor Yuan quickly stopped him. Don't rush. Let's stay here for a while. Let me recover first. I can't be a burden to you and give you some guidance. Alright, then I'll go out and check out the situation outside. I'm afraid the four-armed race will catch up. Divine Ancestor Tion went out. Divine Ancestor Yuan sat cross-legged and began to heal. He couldn't fight for the next few years, but he could at least give them some pointers when he recovered. As the strongest martial artist in the Sacred Abyss, Divine Ancestor Yuan was much stronger than Divine Ancestor Tion in all aspects. Outside this dangerous place, a few elders of the four-armed race stayed outside. They didn't go in recklessly because Divine Ancestor Tion and Divine Ancestor Yuan were not weak, either. Divine Ancestor Tion was especially strong. They wanted to kill the two, but they didn't want both sides to suffer. Hence, they were waiting for the other formidable martial artists to come. 10 days later, Divine Ancestor Yuan sent a message. You can leave now. This is not a place to stay. Run as soon as possible. I can't fight now, but I can release some saint techniques and create some illusions to help you escape. Alright. Divine Ancestor Tion was overjoyed. He knew very well that Divine Ancestor Yuan was proficient in countless saint technique. Some small tricks might not be useful in a real battle, but they were very useful for escaping. The two of them sneaked in the dangerous place for a while before rushing outside. They turned into shadows and floated out like two wisps of wind. Although the two of them didn't seem to be moving, the four-armed race martial artists hiding nearby were immediately alerted. A few doyens immediately rushed over, but at this moment, a black cloud appeared in the sky. The black cloud covered the sky, and it seemed to contain countless terrifying existences. Terrifying killing intent emanated from the black cloud, causing the doyens of the four-armed race to turn pale with fright. Divine Ancestor Tion and Divine Ancestor Yun quickly fled. The black cloud was released by Divine Ancestor Yuan. It was a kind of saint technique that was specially used to scare people. Oh no, we've been tricked. After waiting for a while, the four-armed race martial artists came to their senses. The black cloud had gradually dissipated, and the terrifying aura within it had disappeared. They naturally came to their senses. The two divine ancestors were very fast. In such a short time, they had already escaped far away. It would be very difficult to catch up to them unless they released their race's innate magical powers. However, the innate magical powers of their race could only last for an hour. If they couldn't catch up to them in an hour, how could they chase after them? Recently, the Sacred Rock race had been looking for trouble with them. If the Sacred Rock race martial artists encountered them, they would be in danger. Therefore, they could only chase after them. At the same time, they sent a message to the martial artists of their race, asking them to intercept them. Divine Ancestor Tion and Divine Ancestor Yuan successfully escaped. Divine Ancestor Yuan then released two more secret techniques and created two fake bodies, which successfully led the pursuing martial artists away. That kid has escaped far, far away. Divine Ancestor Tion sensed and sent a message to Divine Ancestor Yuan, feeling a headache coming on. Divine Ancestor Yuan had released several sacred techniques. Healing his wounds for 10 days previously had been in vain. Now he was extremely weak. He sighed and said, "It doesn't matter how far he escaped. As long as he isn't killed by the martial artists of the other major races, and as long as the sacred mountain doesn't fall into the hands of the other major races, it doesn't matter. As long as the Crimson Dragon King is still alive, there is hope for us to take back the sacred mountain. Yes. Divine Ancestor Tian also sighed. Now we have to pray that the kid is still alive. This time, one wrong step led to many wrong steps. I shouldn't have accepted his surrender. Even if he surrendered, I should have controlled him. I was too careless. What's the point of saying all this? Divine Ancestor Yuan shook his head. Back then, one of our divine ancestors left a prophecy. He said that this time, our race would either rise or fall forever. Perhaps this is a great calamity for our race. I hope we can get through this safely. Otherwise, we won't be able to face our ancestors after we die. Lu Li must die. We must take back the sacred mountain. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 30:16. The star region of Infinite Star Region was bustling recently because two major races were fighting. The Holy Rock race and the Four-Armed race. Both races were powerful. They were well-known overlords in the star region of Infinite Star Region. They were not the most powerful race in the star region of Infinite Star Region, but they were among the top. The territories of the two races were close to each other. There had always been conflict. Recently, several senior patriarchs of the Four-Armed race went to the Rain-Sun universe of the Holy Rock race. It was not a big deal for them to come here. However, there happened to be a bad-tempered warrior of the Holy Rock race nearby. He hurried over as soon as he heard the news. It just so happened that the powerful warriors of the Four-Armed race had used their special skills. The time was up. Therefore, the several senior patriarchs were very weak. The patriarch of the Holy Rock race only wanted to take them down so that the Four-Armed race could come and get them. He could take the chance to extort money from them. However, the senior patriarchs of the Four-Armed race were not willing to be humiliated. They fought back with all their might. This angered the patriarch of the Holy Rock race, who killed 13 of the Four-Armed race's senior patriarchs. The death of the senior patriarchs meant that the matter could not be settled. Because of Lu Li and Holy Ancestor Yuan and Holy Ancestor Tian, the two races were at war. Many universes were at war. Flames of war rose everywhere. The Initiator and the other two Holy Ancestors had run away. The Four-Armed race had no time to worry about them. The Holy Rock race was pressuring them. Many universes were in a state of panic. They had no time to spare for Lu Li and the other two Holy Ancestors. Lu Li also noticed that the void was in a mess. Many races were in the void. Most of them were scouts. Occasionally, Lu Li could see some winter iron warships flying in the void. Lu Li made the holy mountain the size of a fist. When it flew, there was only a faint glow. It was not eye-catching at all. Lu Li no longer used psychic power to check. He used the trace of Great Tao to sense the fluctuations in space. How far could psychic power go? Tens of thousands of miles at most. He could cover such a distance in an instant. Therefore, it was pointless. It was quiet in the void. There was not even wind. If there was any fluctuation in space, it must be a sign that some warriors were coming. Therefore, when Lu Li used the Mark of Tao, he could even sense the tremors in space from a distance of 300,000 miles. When the cold steel warship was shuttling through space, the tremors were strong. Lu Li could sense it from a distance. With the mark of the Great Path and the incredible speed of the sacred mountain, Lu Li could be said to be like a fish in water in the endless void. None of the scouts were able to discover him. Perhaps those scouts did not intend to search for him in the first place and were not specifically looking for him. Lu Li had been floating in the void for more than 2 months. He was confused, not knowing where to go or what to do. If he cultivated, he wouldn't be able to settle down. If he didn't cultivate, his days would be miserable. he would be wandering around aimlessly. There were as many powerful beings as the clouds in this place. If he were to continue wandering around, it was inevitable that something would happen to him. I have to think of a way to get some information. Luli thought about it. He knew nothing about this region. He was wandering around like a headless fly. Therefore, he must have a clear understanding of the situation before he could make a plan. How were they going to get information? As long as they could capture a scout and interrogate him for information, everything else would be easy. Luli controlled the holy mountain to wander around. Along the way, he encountered many scouts, but he didn't dare to make a move before. After half a day, Luli found his target. It was a scout of the four-armed race. Now that he had offended the four-armed race, he must find a scout of the four-armed race. He controlled the holy mountain to fly across the sky and instantly arrived near the scout. Then, he released a spirit array technique and pulled the scout into the holy mountain in a flash. The scout was tough. Luli interrogated him for half a day and tried many methods. In the end, he used soul attacks to torture the four-armed race member to death before the scout was willing to talk. On their way to the holy mountain, Luli asked for more information. It took him an entire day to get a general idea of the situation in this region. Region of Infinite Star. This was the name of this star field. The information that this scout knew was only superficial. For example, how many powerful races were in this star field, which race controlled which star field, which races were on good terms with each other, which races were hostile to each other, and so on. There were 33 powerful races in this region. All the races added up had a total of more than 360. Tens of thousands of universes were divided among more than 300 races. Only one universe was shared by all races. The Celestial Star. This realm was the largest one here, and all races could freely enter it. No fights were allowed in this universe. Any race that dared to do anything here would be attacked by the 33 races. This was an agreement made by the 33 races. Of the tens of thousands of universes, half were controlled by the 33 races and the other half were controlled by the other 300 races. The smaller races would either attach themselves to the bigger races or form an alliance. Otherwise, there would be no space for them to survive. The most famous was the 5 alliances. The number of powerful warriors in each alliance could compete with a major race. The Wild Race. The Desolate Race was the strongest race in the Infinite Region. One race could go up against a few large races. However, there were very few people in the Desolate Race, so they seldom caused trouble. However, once they were provoked, they would definitely suffer a crazy backlash. Below the Wild Race were the Holy Rock Race, the Four-Armed Race, the Red Dragon Race and other major races. These races dominated a region, and were not to be messed with in the region of Infinite Star. Luli was overjoyed when he got the information. Without any hesitation, he decided to go to the Celestial Star. He would be safe once he entered the Celestial Star. He could gather information there and stay for a while. When he was sure that all the divine ancestors in the sacred abyss were dead, he could think of a way to go back to the third heaven. What delighted him the most was not this. He learned that many races looked like humans. One of them was the human race, and it was one of the 33 races. This information made him less resistant to the region of Infinite Star. There were humans here and they were powerful ones. He felt a sense of familiarity. It was okay for him to cultivate here for a while. The Celestial Star was far away. If everything went well, it would take him more than half a year. Luli took the scout with him and asked Blood Fairy to control the sacred mountain. He asked the scout about other things, such as where did the powerful races come from and what was special about the region of Infinite Star. The scout's answer shocked Luli. Of the 33 races here, apart from the Wild Race, the other major races and many smaller races came from the universe above the fourth heaven. For example, the Four-Armed Race once dominated a universe above the fourth heaven. Later, when all the universes above the fourth heaven collapsed, they were forced to migrate here. This is not the palace of immortals. This is the refuge of the major races above the fourth heaven. Luli remembered the other two galaxies. There must be many major races in those two galaxies as well. When the universes above the fourth heaven collapsed, all the powerful races migrated to these galaxies. The scout did not know the details and neither did Luli. But he was sure of one thing. There were many shocking secrets in this world. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 30:17. In the endless void, many frigid iron battleships were whooshing across the void. The universes were in a state of chaos. It was a tragic sight. The two races were thoroughly enraged. The conflict was already deep. Many died in this war, including several founding patriarchs on both sides. This was something that had not happened in years. Both races were overlords of the region of Infinite Star. Neither could swallow the humiliation. Therefore, they had to keep on fighting until neither side could afford to pay the price. Sometimes this was how things worked. Both sides knew that it was pointless to keep on fighting. Apart from bringing great losses to their own races, there was nothing to gain. That being said, they had to fight. Otherwise, there would be disagreements within the races. The major races of the region of Infinite Star would laugh at them. It was hard to build up a reputation but easy to destroy it. Without a reputation, a major race would be bullied by other races. The race would decline and in the end, the race might be wiped out. Therefore, sometimes, the race would have to fight on even though they knew it was not good for the race. They had to fight hard, to build up the race's reputation and dominance. Because of this war, Luli and Sacred Ancestor Tion's journey was smooth. Their destinations were similar, the Flying Celestial Star and the Red Dragon Star. The Red Dragon Star was not far away from the Flying Celestial Star, only half a month's journey. It had been more than 5 months. Luli had been flying in the void for 5 months. It had been a quiet journey. With the trace of Tao and the speed of the sacred mountain, Luli was like a fish in water. The scouts and armies on the way could not see him. Today, his peaceful days were interrupted. When he approached a deserted world, he thought there was nothing there. However, as he was passing by the sacred mountain, a black hand reached out. The sacred mountain was grabbed by the hand and froze in midair. The sacred mountain was powerful. Average warriors could not move it. Back in the days, Sacred Ancestor Yuan tried to grab the sacred mountain but failed. He had to use the blood demon formation to imprison the sacred mountain. But now, a black hand had grabbed the sacred mountain? How could Luli not be shocked and frightened? He had been careless. Luli regretted. He had thought it was a deserted world. He tried to sense no ripples in space. He did not expect that there was a powerful warrior hiding in there. Blood Fairy, make the sacred mountain bigger, Luli shouted. He did not want to resign himself to death. The holy mountain glowed and expanded. Finally, the hand could not hold on to the holy mountain anymore. The holy mountain broke free. Go! Luli yelled. The holy mountain flew away like a shooting star. A dark shadow flew out from the ruin region. It was a skinny old man, so skinny that he looked like a skeleton. He had a horn on his head, claws on his hands, dark brown eyes and golden hair. Although they looked like humans, they were clearly not pure-blooded humans. What treasure is this? After the old man flew out, a strange light flashed in his dark brown eyes. He hesitated for a moment, then his body turned into a black shadow and turned into a stream of light as he chased after the holy mountain. The old man was fast, no slower than the sacred mountain. He was hot on Luli's heels. Luli had no choice but to fly in a straight line as fast as he could. The faster the sacred mountain was, the more excited the old man was. Speed alone was a treasure. Therefore, the old man made up his mind to chase after Luli. Inevitably, Lu Li's speed and the pursuit of a powerful warrior would attract the attention of scouts and warriors nearby. It is Bone Demon. What is Bone Demon chasing after? That stone is fast. Bone Demon has been gone for 1,000 years. He is back? Go and report this to our race. Bone Demon committed many crimes and offended many major families. Yes, I remember that he offended 2 major races. He is out in the open. If the 2 races know, they will send out powerful warriors to hunt him down. The Holy Rock race and the 4-armed race are fighting fiercely, and now Bone Demon is back. The barren universe has been quite lively lately. There were many scouts nearby. This time, they gathered in groups of 2s and 3s to watch the fun. The reason why so many scouts appeared in the void was because of the war between the 2 races. They were here to investigate. It had nothing to do with their own races. They were just here to watch the fun. That fast stone attracted many people's attention as well. After all, it must be a treasure if it could fly so fast. It could be a flying artifact with a powerful warrior on board. Lu Li noticed the scouts nearby. He complained at once. The sacred mountain was so fast. Even a blind man could tell it was a treasure. He was afraid that powerful warriors would covet it. By then, more and more powerful warriors would come and fight for it. He had no other choice but to fly the sacred mountain away. At the same time, he looked for favorable terrain to see if he could use the Rain-Yang realm to escape. This old demon was powerful. He must be one of the most powerful even among Saint Kings. If the old demon caught up with him, the loss of the sacred mountain was not a big deal. What was worse was that Lu Li would lose his life. After flying for half a day, Lu Li saw a small planet. Without any hesitation, he flew toward the planet and found a place to hide. Unfortunately, Bone Demon did not hesitate either. He followed Lu Li. Bone Demon was a famous old demon in the barren universe. He was a loner and had no scruples. He did not care about small races because he had no territory, no family, and no people. If he could not win, he would run. He was good at escaping. As long as he could not be killed, then the race would suffer from his crazy revenge. Therefore, for many small races, Bone Demon was not someone they could mess with. Bone Demon knew that this was the territory of a small race. Why wouldn't he dare to go in? What could he say when he entered that race? Lu Li soon realized this. This place was not a barren land. Instead, there were many cities and tribes where many strange races resided. When Lu Li and Bone Demon flew down, they alarmed the armies and powerful warriors in this place. But when Bone Demon shouted, "Piss off!" the armies and powerful warriors stopped moving. It's Bone Demon. All the powerful warriors were frightened. None of them dared to move. Bone Demon shouted, "I am here to kill an enemy. It has nothing to do with you. Don't move if you don't want to die." This was a small clan. They did not even have a lot of Saint Kings, so they were not the Bone Demon's opponent even if they worked together. As a result, the clan immediately began to send messages after the Bone Demon's roar. They ordered all the soldiers and experts to stay put, allowing the Bone Demon to rampage and hunt down his enemies. Damn it! Lu Li cursed. He knew it was pointless to stay here. He made up his mind and flew up to leave this place. Bone Demon followed him at once. The powerful warriors of the small races were relieved. They saw Bone Demon off as if he was a god of plague. Please remember this book's original domain name. Third Sect Leader's mobile version. Chapter 30:18. One was running and the other was chasing. Lu Li's holy mountain and the Bone Demon's speed were almost the same. Therefore, the Bone Demon never caught up. Later on, Lu Li approached another Winter Iron battleship. It was a powerful warrior of the Holy Rock race. But after they found out that it was the Bone Demon, the Winter Iron battleship took a detour. The Bone Demon was so famous that the Holy Rock race could not afford to offend him. It was just that they didn't want to provoke a lunatic like him. Luli had to keep on running. The bone demons behind him kept on releasing all kinds of attacks, trying to stop or crack the sacred mountain. However, the sacred mountain's defense was simply too strong. The bone devil released a few attacks, but he was unable to cause any damage to the sacred mountain. This made the bone devil even more excited. Such a powerful defense and speed, this treasure was extremely rare. Even he did not have such a treasure. Boom! The holy mountain was slapped again. With the help of this force, the holy mountain sped up. Luli complained to himself. This could not go on. The bone demon was too strong. He must find a place to get rid of him. Luli looked around. After flying for more than 4 hours, he found another deserted world. This one was also filled with dark fog. Luli didn't know what kind of horrifying beings were inside. When Luli flew over, he sensed killing intent from inside. He made up his mind and flew the sacred mountain in. Whether this was a dragon's pond or a tiger's den, he had to go in. The bone demon stopped outside. He knew about this deserted world. He was not afraid of the dangers inside. What was more important was that there was an old demon living inside, an old demon of the same level as him. The bone demon was worried about him. If he went in, he would infuriate the old demon. By then, there would be a fierce battle. The thing was, if he didn't go in, the mountain would be taken over by the old demon. Whatever. The bone demon made up his mind. He was worried about the old demon, but the old demon could not kill him. Worse come to worst, they could fight. He had chased after the holy mountain for a long time. He didn't want to go back empty-handed. He rushed in after the time for one breath. As soon as he did, a faintly discernible chi and energy swept over. He heard a cold voice, "Bone demon? What are you doing in my territory? Get out." The bone devil did not stop and continued to fly downwards. At the same time, he shouted, "Old demon ox, I'm not here to fight with you today. I'm here to chase after an enemy. I'll kill him and leave immediately, how about it?" Enemies? Ox demon paused for a moment. Then he used his psychic power to scan the holy mountain and saw Luli inside. Luli shouted at once, "Lord, help me. I know the entrance to a treasured place. This old demon bone wants me to bring him there, and he killed my brother. As long as you help me defeat old demon Goo, I will immediately inform you of the entrance to the treasure ground." Luli was just talking nonsense. This old demon seemed to be quite powerful. If he could fight the bone demon, then Luli could definitely get away easily. Old Devil Ox really looked like a bull. He was tall and big, and he had horns on his head. His nose was also like a bull's nose. He held a fork in his hand, and he was 3 meters tall. His eyes were like copper bells. His eyes glowed when he heard Luli's words. He sent a message, "What land of treasures?" It might be the entrance to the ancient sacred land. Luli continued to talk nonsense. He bluffed, "Lord, as long as you help me defeat this hateful old demon, I will take you there right away." Ancient sacred land? Is it the relic of the holy race? Ox demon seemed to be in a daze. He murmured to himself. Luli saw that the bone demon was coming down. He flew the holy mountain to the back of Ox demon. At the same time, he said, "Lord, help! The bone demon is coming." Old demon Ox snorted. The triangular fork in his hand grew bigger, and he swept at Luli. At the same time, he shouted, "Old demon Bone, get out of here right now or I will show you no mercy." Bone Devil was enraged as well. What a stubborn bull. He would make a move at the slightest disagreement. How could he be scared off by old demon Ox's words? How could he survive in this region in the future? At once, the two demons began to fight. Luli saw two shadows colliding with each other. A surge of horrifying chi swept across, shaking heaven and earth. Even the space over there was cracked. Luli was overjoyed. he stealthily moved the holy mountain back. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, Luli sped up to the extreme and flew out of the deserted universe. Old Demon Ox, that punk is running away. Bone Devil had been keeping an eye on Luli. Now that Luli was about to run, Bone Devil said in a hurry, "I am not in the mood to fight you. Move aside. I will go after him. He is an enemy of mine." "Enemy, my foot!" Old Demon Ox glared at Luli and shouted, "You want to go to the relic of the holy race, don't you? Don't even think about it. Enemy? How can a warrior of the holy race be your enemy? Did he kill your entire family? Shame on you." "What relic of the holy race? I don't know what you are talking about." Bone Devil was enraged. Many times, he wanted to go after Luli. However, the more he wanted to, the more Old Demon Ox would not let him go. Old Demon Ox's physical body ranked top 10 in the Infinite Star region in terms of defense and speed. Bone Devil could not kill Old Demon Ox, nor could he get rid of Old Demon Ox. For a moment, Bone Devil was enraged, but there was nothing he could do. Luli had flown out of the deserted universe. He didn't take a detour and went straight to the celestial realm. It was pointless to take a detour now. The celestial realm was not far away. It would be a victory if he could go in. Along the way, Luli was more careful. Whenever there was any fluctuation in space, he would take a detour at once. Many scouts had learned that he was being chased by Bone Devil. The Four-Armed Race and the Holy Rock Race must have received the news as well. But whether or not they would come after him was unknown. Luli flew for half a month. There were no more pursuers on the way. He was a bit relieved. It was only a month's journey to the celestial realm. He hoped that nothing would go wrong on the way. On the other hand, Sacred Ancestor Tion and the others had a smooth journey as well. Sacred Ancestor Yuan had been weak, but he could help to cover the two Sacred Ancestors' escape. The two Sacred Ancestor were about to arrive at the celestial realm. They would arrive at the Red Dragon Star in a bit more northwest. The two Sacred Ancestor were excited. They didn't expect that the journey would be so peaceful. Now they just had to see if that royal of the Red Dragon race was still alive. A month later, Luli saw a huge planet in the distance. He was overjoyed. This planet must be the celestial star. He had made it here alive and he was safe. Something is wrong. Luli suddenly noticed that there were many battleships wandering in the void up ahead. He didn't see which race they were, but he had a bad feeling. They might be here to stop him. Let's go. Luli steered the holy mountain to the left. He didn't believe that the celestial star was so large that they could block off the entire celestial star. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leader's mobile version. Chapter 30:19. Luli was right. Those warriors were here for him, and they were his enemies, the Four-Armed Race. Just over half a month ago, the Four-Armed Race and the Sacred Rock Race had stopped fighting. One of the large races had come to a truce in the middle. The two races had both suffered heavy losses from this battle, and there was no benefit to be gained from continuing. Since there were large clans trying to mediate, the two clans stopped fighting. After the armistice, the Four-Armed Race naturally came to find the culprit. The Four-Armed Race had learned that Luli was being hunted by the Bone Demon. Powerful warriors of the Four-Armed Race speculated that Luli and the two divine ancestors were coming to the celestial race. Therefore, many powerful warriors and scouts were stationed outside the celestial race. The flying celestial star was the safest place in the entire star region of Infinite Star. The 33 major races had an agreement here. Powerful warriors of the wild race were stationed here. Anyone who dared to make a move on the flying celestial star would be violating the agreement and would be punished by all the races. Therefore, it was highly likely that Luli and the two sacred ancestors would go to the flying celestial star. However, they could not let them go, or else the Four-Armed Race would be humiliated. If it were not for the fact that Lu Li's senses were strong and he was cautious, he would have been in trouble. The holy mountain was too small, and it did not have a strong presence. It would be hard to find a trace of the holy mountain if one was not fast enough. Lu Li flew the holy mountain carefully and tried to find a place with fewer warriors. How could the four-armed race lock down such a large flying celestial star? The four-armed race indeed could not lock down the flying celestial star. They sent out more than 1,000 battleships and many scouts to patrol outside the flying celestial star. The battleships and the scouts formed a web. There were almost no blind spots. It would be difficult to sneak in. More importantly, the entrances to the flying celestial star were guarded by scouts. If any powerful warrior wanted to go in, the scouts would be alerted. Once the scouts sent a message, the powerful warriors could hurry over. Lu Li flew around for a day and soon realized this. The battleships were fast and they crossed paths with the scouts. Therefore, it seemed that there were no blind spots. He could approach the planet stealthily by himself, but the problem was that he didn't know where the weak point of the planet's space was. How could he not be discovered by the four-armed race after circling around the planet for half a day? Actually, it was easy to get close to the golden flowing light. The difficult part was finding the entrance. This required time, and this time was enough for the four-armed race's scouts to find him. Lu Li didn't dare to act rashly. He had to keep on exploring and floating around. After walking for 2 whole days, he found some clues. It seemed like some of the scouts were stationary. They were squatting in certain areas. Shouldn't scouts be roaming around? Crouching in some areas? What was there to crouch in these areas? The entrance. Lu Li's eyes glowed. Apart from the entrance being nearby, there was no other explanation. Lu Li grinned. After a while, he dashed forward like a sharp sword. At this moment, a warship just happened to leave, and the roaming scout also flew into the distance. There was just a point in time. Lu Li had the time for one incense stick to burn. If he could not find the entrance by then, he would be discovered. He didn't fly on the holy mountain. The holy mountain was too recognizable, and he would be spotted immediately. Lu Li transformed into the dragon transformation. In this way, he would look more like an alien race and wouldn't stand out. Before Lu Li got close, he was spotted by the scout. But the scout glanced at Lu Li with confusion. Lu Li seemed to be of the red dragon race, but at the same time, he was not. While the scout was wondering, Lu Li's eyes glowed in a golden light. He used a formation and the scout's soul was trapped. Lu Li slapped the scout, knocked him out and threw him into the holy mountain. Find it. Lu Li used psychic power to search for the entrance. In the time for a dozen breaths, Lu Li's eyes glowed. There really was an entrance nearby. Move! Lu Li sped up to the extreme. However, as soon as he moved, the space behind him began to tremble. Following that, a powerful warrior walked out from the void. Staring at Lu Li, the warrior shouted, "Stop or I will make a move!" Lu Li looked back. It was a powerful warrior of the four-armed race. Lu Li sneered. He took out the holy mountain and dashed in. Then, he controlled the holy mountain to rush toward the entrance. "It is you, you bastard! Where are you going?" The powerful warrior of the four-armed race had some doubts. But as soon as the holy mountain appeared, he flew into a rage. His arms grew longer and larger as he reached for the holy mountain. He was not powerful enough. The holy mountain trembled and then he broke free. He snuck into the weak spot of the golden light and vanished. "Woo, woo, woo!" the powerful warrior of the four-armed race shouted. From the distance, many battleships approached. 2 hours later, there were 7 or 8 patriarchs gathered here. "That punk went in," the patriarch that stopped Lu Li said bitterly. Many major races knew about the interception. They had mobilized so many warriors and powerful warriors, but they could not stop an emperor. The four-armed race was humiliated. "This is not good. Alas, I told you that this is not going to work." Put a scout at each entrance. Isn't this telling him that this is the entrance? What's the point of saying all this now? The news has spread. Our race is at a disadvantage in the war with the Holy Rock race. Now we are even more humiliated. No, he has to die. Even if he goes to the realm of flying celestial, he must die. The patriarchs sat together and quarreled. But after a long time, they could not come to a conclusion. After waiting for another 2 hours, a warship flew over from afar. Then, an expert flashed over. "Greetings, Patriarch 8. The group of patriarchs bowed. The patriarch walked to the main seat and sat down. He looked around with dignity and said, "Tell me." The patriarchs explained the situation. The patriarchs pondered for a while. One of them said, "Patriarch 8, this punk must die. We can hire some assassins to go in and kill him. We won't admit it anyway. Who can do anything to us?" "Fool!" The Patriarch 8 rebuked. "Do you really think everything is flawless? Don't you know how inflexible the desolate race is? If there is evidence, the desolate race will be enraged. Then, our race will not be able to survive in the infinite desolate star region." Upon hearing the words, desolate race, all the patriarchs' expressions changed slightly. They felt a chill run down their backs. One of the patriarchs hesitated for a moment before asking, "Are we just going to ignore it? Are we going to let this punk go?" "How can we let him go?" The Patriarch 8 sneered. "Anyone who dares to challenge our race's dignity must die. If we can't do it openly, we will do it secretly. If we can't do it forcefully, we will do it softly. The flying immortal world does not allow violence, but there are many dangerous places in the flying immortal world. We can lure this punk into those dangerous places. After all, this punk must die. Patriarch 16, you will be in charge of this matter. Do you roughly understand what I mean? We can't do it forcefully or directly. As long as there is no evidence, even if the entire infinite desolate star region knows that we killed him, the desolate race will not be able to do anything to us." An elder stepped forward. He understood the Patriarch 8's intentions. He bowed and said, "Patriarch 8, don't worry. I understand what you mean. I will definitely let that punk die a horrible death. I will make sure he will never be able to rise again." Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Masters Mobile Version. Chapter 30-20. The Flying Celestial Realm was a very big realm. There were at least 10 third heavens there. It was also the undisputed center of infinite region. There were many grotto heavens and blessed lands here, many relics, many treasures, and many dangerous places. There were hundreds of races gathered there, and there was the largest underground black market. There were countless treasures and experts there. It was a prosperous world, and it was a place that countless races in the infinite region yearned for. The reason why they wanted to come here was that not everyone could come here. Ordinary warriors did not have the qualifications to live here because the castles in this city were frighteningly expensive. Not to mention buying, even staying in an inn for a month was very expensive. The currency here was not the divine source god stones of the third heaven. Instead, it was a precious celestial Kirin stone, commonly known as celestial stone. Currently, only the desolate race and the 4 large clans had discovered a few celestial Kirin stone mines in the entire infinite region. Hence, the Heaven Kirin stone was accepted by everyone as a common currency. This currency was also set by the desolate race. The desolate race was born in this star domain millions of years ago, so they had always used the Heaven Kirin stone as their currency. Although the flying immortal world is very big, there are not many cities. 1 saint city, 10 imperial cities, 100 king cities, a total of 111 cities. Perhaps no one would believe that such a large realm only had 111 cities, but that was the truth. It wasn't that it was difficult to construct a city. It was just that the 33 races had an agreement that the flying immortal city could only construct that many cities. Why did he have to do this? This was because the wilderness of the flying immortal world was very dangerous. Even an ordinary emperor rank would die if they were unlucky. However, it was absolutely safe inside the city. Moreover, the heaven and earth spiritual energy inside the city was also very dense. The rarer something is, the greater its value. The flying celestial world was the center of the entire infinite region, but there were only 111 cities there. Therefore, every inch of land in the cities was worth its weight in gold. Owning a house in the city was a symbol of one's status. This was the reason why the 33 clans had controlled the number of cities here. This flying immortal world was actually a good place for the 33 races to earn celestial Qilin stones. Every castle and every courtyard could be sold for a high price. Most importantly, there were countless shops in every city, and they could collect a huge amount of taxes every day. Although the 33 super clans were the most powerful clans, the total population of the 33 super clans was less than half of the entire infinite region. Controlling the flying celestial world was equivalent to controlling a huge gold mine that could bring them endless wealth. Wealth was equivalent to resources. They controlled countless resource-rich lands in infinite region, and that was the foundation of the 33 tribes. They used these resources to constantly nurture formidable martial artists. With formidable martial artists, they would be able to guard such a huge territory and ensure that their clans would prosper forever. This was also the reason why the 33 clans had set an agreement that forbade violence within the flying celestial world. There were 100 law enforcement teams in this world that patrolled the flying immortal world day and night. The ones leading them were experts from the desolate race. Once anyone was discovered to be using force, they would be killed without mercy, regardless of who it was. Of course, it wasn't that the flying immortal world didn't have fights. There were often experts fighting inside. As long as they weren't caught and there was no evidence, it would be fine. If there was evidence, even the four-armed race's Grand Elder would die without a doubt. The desolate race was the strongest race in the infinite region. It was also the most inflexible and ruthless race. They didn't care what big race you were from or what famous experts you were. If you dared to go against the rules, they would kill you first. In addition, there was another reason why the flying celestial world attracted countless races. There were countless treasured lands here, but there were also countless danger zones and countless ruins. For example, some old demons who were nearing the end of their lifespans would like to be buried here. They would then set up many divine rune arrays and deliberately let people charge through to snatch the treasures. This way, their descendants would remember them. The treasures they obtained and the secret skills they created would also be passed down. There were endless opportunities here, but it was also extremely dangerous. This was the center of the infinite region, the flying celestial world. Swish! A stone flew down from the sky and quickly fell into the mountain range below. Before it completely landed, a deafening roar came from the nearby mountain range. Next, a huge monster soared into the sky, roaring as it charged towards the sacred mountain. So powerful! Luli could feel the monster's terrifying chi and blood. It was like a deep pool. It was a reptilian monster with a brown carapace and two huge pincers. At this moment, it was swinging its pincers at the sacred mountain. Boom! The sacred mountain trembled but didn't move down. Strong as the monster was, it could only be at the later stage of the Emperor realm. Naturally, it could not shake the sacred mountain. Luli didn't pay attention to the monster. He used psychic power to check the surroundings. This was a vast mountain range. Apart from the rich Xian Qi in heaven and earth, everything else was no different from a mountain in the third heaven. Swish! Luli released a formation and suppressed the monster. He didn't kill the monster. Instead, he dashed out, took out a black armor and covered his head, revealing only his eyes. He moved forward quickly, looking for a city. He didn't feel safe in the wild. It was better for him to go into a city and get some information. After taking a few steps, he recalled something and released 2 scouts from the sacred mountain. These 2 scouts were from the 4-armed race, and they had been knocked unconscious by him. He couldn't use force here. He didn't want to be found out and accused of fighting. Woo! Not long after, another monster appeared in front of them. It was slightly weaker than the previous one, but it also had Overlord-tier combat power. Luli didn't kill the monster. He trapped its soul with a formation and moved on. Along the way, there were many beasts of varying strength. The most powerful one could be at the peak of the Emperor realm. Luli had to take out the sacred mountain or else his physical body wouldn't be able to stand it. The sacred mountain's defense was strong. After one wave, Luli flew away. Half a day later, Luli didn't see any cities. But at this moment, he saw a battleship, a huge cold steel battleship. At first, Luli thought it was the 4-armed race. But he sensed that the powerful warriors on the battleship were of different races. He saw a human among them. Luli didn't take out the sacred mountain or run around. He stood on the battleship, keeping a low profile and even bowed slightly. A few strands of divine sense swept over them, but they quickly retracted. The warship continued to tear through the sky without stopping. It is dangerous in the wild. If you have the Heaven Kirin stone, you'd better go to a city. There may be beasts going on a rampage. A voice suddenly came to Luli's mind. Luli was surprised. He looked up and saw a powerful warrior looking at him from the cold steel battlefield. It was the human elder. Luli bowed at once. As a fellow human, he felt a sense of closeness in a foreign land, not to mention that the human elder was giving him advice. End of this chapter. Chapter 30-21. Luli wanted to go to the city as well, but he didn't know where it was. He pondered for a moment before sending a telepathic message. Sir, may I ask which direction the city is? Fly to the northwest for 10 days or half a month. There is a black tortoise city there. By the time Luli heard the voice, the Winter Iron battleship had already drifted away. Luli was surprised. He could fly for 10 days or half a month. How could the city be so far away? Were there no small cities nearby? With someone pointing the way, Luli didn't wander around aimlessly. He flew straight to the northwest. There were beasts and beasts everywhere. Luli couldn't defeat many of them. Luckily, he had the holy mountain which was so strong that not even Saint Kings could break it, let alone these beasts. Several days later, Luli didn't run into any other warriors. Apart from the battleship, he didn't run into any other races in the wild. There are so many beasts here. There are so many powerful warriors in the desolate universe. Why don't they kill the beasts? Luli couldn't figure it out. The beasts looked strong, but there were at least more than a dozen Saint Kings on the battleship. Those Saint Kings should have been able to kill the beasts easily. Luli stopped thinking about it. Another 5 days later, he finally found warriors of other races. It was a strange mountain. It was steep and straight. On the mountain, Luli found warriors of hundreds of races. The hundreds of warriors were strange. They were all climbing in the mountain as if they were picking some herbs. Moreover, this mountain seemed to have a very strong gravitational force. It was difficult for them to climb. Luli noticed that many of the hundreds of warriors were lords and 3 were at the Emperor realm. Luli was confused. Since when did Emperor realm warriors have to pick herbs themselves? Luli didn't go over rashly. After all, he was unfamiliar with the place and he didn't dare to get close to any races. What if he was ambushed and assassinated when he didn't know the situation? Luli took a detour. Several Emperor realm warriors did see him, but they just used psychic power to check and didn't pay much attention. They continued to climb in the mountain. Another 2 days later, Luli found another strange place. It was an abyss, a very deep one. Above and below the abyss, there were many strange races. From the looks of it, it seemed like it was gathering something in the abyss. Moreover, there were several thousand warriors here, and they were clearly divided into more than 10 teams, but they were not in any disorder, nor were they fighting over the divine medicines. They were collecting the divine medicines in a corner, and did not interfere with each other. Roar! When Luli passed by, he heard a loud beast roar coming from underground. All the warriors above flew down as if they were working together to fight against the enemy. What a wonderful place! Luli curled his lips and flew on. This time, it was a smooth journey. After a couple of days, he saw a huge city. The walls of this city were thousands of feet tall, and there were all kinds of strange patterns on them. It was obvious that there were extremely powerful divine inscriptions set up on them. There was no army on the city walls, not a single one, because there was a huge white barrier of light above the city walls that enveloped the entire city. There weren't any on the city walls, but there were at the city gates. There was also a group of 12 soldiers, all wearing white battle armor. Their appearances were similar to humans, but they had clearly changed. It was obvious that they were outlanders, and there wasn't a single pure-blooded human among them. Of the 12 soldiers, 11 were at the sub-emperor level, and 1 was at the emperor level. Luli was speechless. Since when were emperor-level warriors reduced to guarding the city gates? Luli strode to the city gate, cupped his fists and bowed to the emperor-level warrior, and then walked inside. He had just taken a step when a soldier blocked his path and coldly extended a hand, saying, "Token!" Luli didn't have any token. He said, "I don't have one." "You just got here?" That warrior sneered. Even though Luli was at the emperor level, the warrior didn't seem to think highly of him, nor was he afraid. The warrior reached out his hand again and said, "You want to go into the city? Give me Heaven Kirin stones, 10 a day." Heaven Kirin stones? Luli frowned. He didn't know what that was. He asked after some thoughts, "Lord, what is Heaven Kirin stones? I don't have any." "If you don't, go to the Crimson Hill 300 miles to the west of the city to exchange for them." The warrior waved his hand and said, "There is a chamber of commerce there. You must have some treasures, right? You cannot go into the city without Heaven Kirin stones." "Okay, thank you very much." Luli cupped his fists and walked toward the west of the city. The scout didn't tell him that he needed Heaven Kirin stones to go into the city. If he had known, he would have taken the 2 scouts interspatial rings. They must have Heaven Kirin stones. That being said, he had many treasures. He could sell some of them for tens of thousands of Heaven Kirin stones. In less than an hour, Luli found the Red Summit Mountain. The mountain was easy to find because there was only one mountain here, and it was all alone. On the peak of the mountain was a castle. Clearly, it was the castle of the black market. This place must have a strong background to be able to open an underground black market outside the city. Luli saw people coming in and out. Nobody paid attention to him. Luli walked into the hall and found that it was divided into many side chambers. An old man came to him and asked if Luli was here to buy something or to buy something. Luli didn't even have 1 Heaven Kirin stone. What could he buy? Of course, he would go to a place to sell things. That old man took him to a side chamber and asked him to take out the things he wanted to sell and then appraise them. Luli thought about it and took out some elixirs from his interspatial ring. They were all top-level elixirs at the 3rd heaven, which were valuable. "This is Inyang grass, right? It is only 10,000 years old? It is not worth any celestial stones. 100 of them are worth 30 celestial stones." "What kind of elixir is this? I have never seen it before. But I can tell it is not that effective. I will give it 10 celestial stones. This elixir is interesting. It is similar to the wind element leaf. These dozens of elixirs can be valued at 50 celestial stones, Luli took out nearly 1,000 celestial stones. The old man estimated that it was only slightly more than 100 celestial stones. Luli was stunned. He was not in a hurry to sell. Instead, he took out a sovereign weapon and asked, "How much is this weapon worth?" "Sovereign weapon?" The old man glanced at it, not showing any interest. He waved his hand and said, 1,000 celestial stones. Your weapon has not been nurtured for a long time. It is not worth any celestial stones. Luli was dumbfounded. A sovereign weapon could only stay in the city for 100 days? Was the city a place for people to live? He was a sovereign realm warrior. If he sold all the average treasures he wouldn't be able to stay in the city for more than a few years. Luli was hesitating. The old man grinned and said, "Young man, is this your first time in the realm of flying celestial?" Luli nodded and asked, "Sir, how come the cities of the realm of flying celestial are so expensive? It costs 10 celestial stones a day to enter the city? How could an ordinary person bear it?" "You said ordinary people. Of course they cannot afford it." The old man was not a pure-blooded human being. There were red stripes on his forehead, his eyes were purple, his nose was hooked, and his ears were curved. He said slowly, "If you want to stay in the city, you have to find a way to buy a residence. Without a residence, not even a martial saint can survive. Therefore, if you want to stay in the city for a long time, you have to buy a residence." "How many celestial stones do I need to buy a residence?" Luli asked with curiosity. "Not expensive." The old man grinned and said, "In a royal city like the Black Tortoise City, the smallest residence is 100,000 celestial stones. The Imperial City is 10 times more expensive. If you want to buy a manor in the Sacred City, it will cost at least 10 million celestial stones." 10 million, Luli was dumbfounded. One sovereign weapon was only 1,000 celestial stones. If he wanted a manor in the Sacred City, he would have to trade 10,000 sovereign weapons? If there was nothing wrong with his brain, he wouldn't do such a stupid thing. End of this chapter. Chapter 30-22. Luli did not trust the old man completely. Naturally, he didn't sell the sovereign weapon either. He only had one sovereign weapon and he got it from killing enemies. He didn't have time to refine a sovereign weapon or nurture it. Though he didn't need it, it was better to keep it. He sold some elixirs for more than 200 celestial stones. He decided to go into the city and gather some information. After retrieving the celestial stones, Jiang Yi walked down the city and handed over 100 celestial stones. The soldier handed over a token and said, "This token will melt after 10 days. You have to leave the city immediately. Otherwise, if you don't have the token on you, you will be arrested and punished severely." "Got it." Luli curled his lips. The realm of flying celestial was smart. The token would disappear automatically when the time was up. Without the token, he could not stay in the city. Before he entered the city, the warrior told him several things. He must not provoke anyone without reason or he would be punished. He must not make a move or he would be killed instantly. He must not commit crimes or he would be punished as well. In other words, they had to abide by the rules and be well behaved in the city. Any bad behavior would be severely punished. For example, if he molested a girl and the girl reported it, he could be punished with hundreds of celestial stones. If he could not pay, he could be sent to do hard labor. That sergeant also gave Luli a booklet with the city rules listed in it clearly. Luli put it away after a casual glance. He walked into the city. It was a large city with many residents. There were many races. Luli was dazzled by the sight. But no matter what race they were, they all looked like humans in the city. At best, they would retain some of their own characteristics. Luli could understand. There were too many races and many of them were huge. If they didn't change into human shapes, many buildings would be destroyed as soon as they entered the city. There were so many races of different sizes. The realm of flying celestial was a place where hundreds of races lived together. Therefore, there was only one standard and they had to be of similar size. As a matter of fact, the races here did not change according to the human race, but the wild race. The appearance of the wild race was similar to humans. In the infinite region, the wild race was the overlord. Naturally, the wild race was respected. This city was built in a very grand manner. The streets were very orderly and the houses were also very orderly. Each house had a small courtyard, and many of the courtyards were lit up with white light. Clearly, there were people cultivating inside. Luli didn't know where to go even though he was in the city. He wandered around the city. Many races in the city looked at him but didn't pay attention to him. Luli saw tens of thousands of warriors in the city. Most of them were at the Lord Realm and some were at the Great Emperor Realm. Luli went into a tavern. After a while, he walked out because he could not afford it. The things inside were too expensive, but the things inside were very precious. For example, there was a dish made from the meat of a type of beast, and that beast was comparable to an overlord. Any random jug of wine would cost dozens of celestial stones, and it was obviously of the divine liquid grade. Luli went to another tavern. Soon, he realized he couldn't afford it either. It would cost 10 celestial stones to stay here for a day. Luli touched his nose, speechless. He, a warrior of the Great Emperor Realm, could not afford a place to stay or food. If this spread to the third heaven, no one would dare to believe it, right? Luli thought about it and decided to spend some celestial stones to get some information. Information was the most important thing. Nothing else mattered. The best place to get information was the waiter in the tavern. There were many people coming and going in the tavern. The waiter lived here all year round. Therefore, he must have a clear idea of what was going on around here. The waiter knew this best. Once the celestial stones were spent, they would tell him everything. Luli sent a message to a waiter at the bottom of the tavern. Not long afterward, the waiter came back. He winked at Luli and led him around. After a while, they appeared in an alley. The waiter bowed with a smile and said, "Lord, 100 celestial stones. What do you want to know?" "As long as it is about the Black Tortoise City, I know most of it and I can tell you." Luli gave him 100 celestial stones without hesitation and began to ask questions. After more than 2 hours, he waved his hand. The waiter left with the celestial stones, satisfied. Luli stood where he was with a solemn and disappointed expression. It was not easy to live a good life in the flying celestial world. This was indeed the safest place in the infinite region. However, the prerequisite was that one had to have a residence in the city. There were only 111 cities in the flying celestial world. Not to mention the holy city. Even the Monarch city was expensive. The reason why it was so expensive was because the 33 great clans had done it on purpose. The entire flying celestial world was the money bag of the 33 major families. Apart from a huge manor in the holy city, the 33 major families didn't have any family members living in other places. The members of the 33 major families never messed around in the flying celestial world. They built the flying celestial world into a land of treasures, a paradise. Their purpose was to attract countless old demons and experts from small families to settle down, cultivate, and fight for treasures. Such a big realm only had 111 cities. How many people were there in the entire infinite region? There were countless old devils from the outside gathered here as well. The rarer something was, the more valuable it was. Naturally, the land price in the city was high. On the other hand, if the owner of the residence died, they would have to reclaim it. By then, they could sell it again. It was not safe outside the city. If it was safe outside, the land price in the city wouldn't be so high. Luli even suspected that the reason why it was so unsafe outside the city was because of the frequent beast tides, was because of the 33 major families. Otherwise, the 33 major families could easily kill all the beasts by sending out some Saint King expert. It was very likely that they left these beasts behind to force everyone to enter the city. It was difficult to earn celestial stones in the infinite region. Celestial stones were very valuable. Of course, if you could sell some treasures like sacred weapons, you could get a lot of celestial stones. For example, if Luli sold the Holy Mountain, he could get tens of millions of celestial stones easily. Luli had a sacred weapon, the soul-devouring bead, but why would he sell it? As for the elixirs, they weren't worth any celestial stones. There were tens of thousands of realms in the infinite region. What kind of elixir couldn't be found here? Because there were so many resources here, the average strength of the martial artists here was not low. Luli finally understood some things. For example, when he saw some emperor rank experts harvesting elixirs outside. He couldn't figure it out. Since when did emperor rank experts have such a miserable life? Now he knew that those emperor rank experts were forced to live. They must be accumulating celestial stones, so that they could buy a residence in the city. There is no other way. Luli thought for a while and decided to wander around the city for a few days. As an emperor rank expert, there was nothing he could do. He had to go out to mine and harvest elixirs to earn celestial stones. End of this chapter. Chapter 30-23. Crimson Dragon Planet, Main City, Crimson Dragon City. The city was bustling that day. Countless important figures that were not usually seen were out to greet two distinguished guests from afar. These two distinguished guests were divine emperors. If they were ordinary divine emperors, they would not have attracted so many important figures. To many of the important figures of the Crimson Dragon race, these two divine emperors were not special. However, since an ancestral patriarch of the Crimson Dragon race had spoken, they had to take it seriously. The Crimson Dragon race sent out 10 founding elders and countless thearchs to greet them. After waiting for an hour, a winter iron warship flew over. Divine Ancestor Tian and Divine Ancestor Yun stood on the warship. They found hundreds of powerful figures standing at the city gate. There were 10 Divine Ancestors, and a few of them were more powerful than Divine Ancestor Yuan. Their faces were flushed and their hearts were at ease. After a round of pleasantries, the two Divine Ancestors were welcomed into the Crimson Dragon Palace. That member of the royal family did not come out. The great elder of the Crimson Dragon clan personally received them. After 3 rounds of wine, the two Divine Ancestors were brought to the back mountain to meet the great founding elder. The great founding elder was very old and his lifespan was running out. An ancestral patriarch of the Sacred Abyss race had saved the great founding elder's life, and he had always remembered it. This ancestral patriarch later died in the infinite region, which made the great founding elder feel very guilty. Now that his descendant had found him, how could he not take it seriously? Divine Ancestor Tian sent Divine Ancestor Yuan out. The great founding elder checked and asked him to rest in the back mountain. He took out a top-level divine medicine to heal Divine Ancestor Yuan. When Divine Ancestor Tian offered to help hunt down Luli and take back the sacred mountain, the Crimson Dragon race agreed and immediately arranged to track down Luli's whereabouts. Divine Ancestor Tian could roughly sense it. He reported the location. In just half a month, the Crimson Dragon race found Luli's whereabouts. Luli was in the flying celestial realm in Xianwu City. This is a bit troublesome. The great founding elder was very old and looked no different from a human. He only had dragon horns on his head and a dragon tail on his back. His skin was wrinkled and he said bluntly, "We cannot attack the flying celestial realm. This is a common agreement among the 33 races. We cannot send powerful figures to capture him." This, Sacred Ancestor Tian and Sacred Ancestor Yun were worried. If Luli stayed in the realm of flying immortals and cultivated there for 10,000 years or even 100,000 years, He would become a saint king very soon given his talent. It had not been long since Luli reached the Overlord realm. The soul skill he released earlier was very powerful. If he reached the Saint Emperor realm, it would be very difficult to kill him. The sacred mountain would probably be lost forever. Don't worry, seeing how anxious the two divine ancestors were, the Crimson Dragon royalty smiled and waved his hand. We can't do it openly, and we can't leave any evidence behind. However, that doesn't mean that we don't have any opportunities. Leave it to us. When we return, we will definitely bring his corpse back to you. We will also help you take back your clan's treasure. Back then, your ancestors saved this king's life. This king will definitely repay this favor. Thank you, Lord Ao Ding. The two divine ancestors were overjoyed and hurriedly thanked him. The royalty pondered for a moment and said, "Stay in Crimson Dragon City for now. This matter cannot be rushed. If it's fast, it will take 3 to 5 years. If it's slow, it will take decades. We need to find an opportunity. We cannot leave any traces or evidence behind, or the desolate race will find trouble with us." Desolate race. The two divine ancestors looked at each other. Sacred Ancestor Tian said, puzzled, "Lord Ao Ding, the desolate race is one of the 33 races like you. Although they are slightly stronger than the nobles, they should at least give you some face, right? It's just capturing an outsider. It's not that important, right?" "No. You don't understand." Ao Ding shook his head. "The desolate race is much stronger than us. One desolate race can fight against 10 large races. The desolate race will not give us any face. They will not give any face to any other race. They are very old-fashioned and mean. They are very particular about rules. If anyone breaks the rules, they will immediately take action. It's like me personally taking action and capturing that enemy of yours. Once the desolate race learns of it, unless our race hands me over, our race will be annihilated by the other large races. Actually, you might not know this, but the infinite desolate star domain did not have 33 large races, but 36. The other 3 were either annihilated or moved to other star domains. That terrifying? The two divine ancestors looked each other in the eye. They were secretly alarmed. They knew of the desolate race, but they never expected them to be that powerful. A single race could fight against 10 large races. Ao Ding smiled and said, "If the desolate race was not so few in numbers, with only tens of thousands of people, they would probably be the undisputed kings of these star domains if their numbers were increased by 100 times. The two divine ancestors were even more shocked. Sacred Ancestor Tian thought and asked, "Back then, many large races came. How many of the top 10 large races came? Is the desolate race stronger than those large races?" "More or less." Ao Ding nodded slightly. "You have to consider this. The desolate race has always been in the infinite desolate star domain. They have never gone to the worlds above. As for those large races, they came from the worlds above. How many resources did they obtain from the worlds above? If they were on the same level, the desolate race would definitely be able to fight against all the strong races. Besides, those large races that came from the infinite desolate race are no longer as strong as they were in the past. Now, in the 5 star domains, there is no longer a single large race that has the absolute combat power to dominate. What happened back then caused all the races to suffer a great loss. What happened back then? Sacred Ancestor Tian and Sacred Ancestor Yun were immediately curious. They knew a little, but there were many secrets that they did not know. The Red Dragon race had come from the 4th heaven, so they definitely knew all the secret. Sacred Ancestor Tian inquired, "Lord Ao Ding, back then, why did the worlds above the 4th heaven collapse? Was it really because of that woman?" Heh. Ao Ding laughed and shook his head. "Let's not talk about these old matters. There's no point in talking about them. It's even worse if they spread. Don't ask too much or you might get into trouble. All right. Sacred Ancestor Tian and Sacred Ancestor Yun were slightly disappointed. They had heard some rumors, but they were not sure if they were true. They wanted to confirm it with Ao Ding, but they never expected him to say it, a woman. The rumors they had heard said that the worlds above the fourth heaven had collapsed because of a woman of unparalleled beauty and extremely powerful strength. That woman was now a taboo existence. No one dared to speak of her publicly. However, there were many rumors in private. Sacred Ancestor Tian and company had heard a few versions, but they did not know which one was true. Alright, you guys go down and cultivate. Ao Ding waved his hand and said, "This king will send some people to give you some cultivation resources. You can also take a stroll around my clan's holy land. As for that human, you don't have to worry about it. Just wait patiently, I will bring his corpse back to you." Thank you, Lord Ao Ding. Sacred Ancestor Tian and Sacred Ancestor Yun were overjoyed. They thanked him profusely and left. Chapter 30-24. In any place, the rarer something was, the greater its value. Whatever was lacking in the barren universe, it would be expensive. For example, the barren universe had no shortage of elixirs, which was why they were cheap. Since there were many great Emperor Realm weapons were not as valuable. To earn celestial stones in the barren universe, there were several ways. The first was to seek refuge with a major race and work for another race. In this way, he could receive salary and celestial stones every once in a while. Given Lu Li's abilities, he could be valued if he sought refuge with a major race. At the very least, he could get himself a castle in the Black Tortoise City. That being said, Lu Li did not like to depend on others, nor did he want to be a fighter for other races or be ordered around by other races. The second way was to dig for elixirs and materials. The realm of flying immortals was full of elixirs and materials. If he was lucky, he could spend decades or even a century digging, and he could buy a yard in the Black Tortoise City. He could also hunt for beasts. Many materials from beasts were valuable and could be sold at a high price. The higher the rank of the beasts, the more valuable the materials would be. The third option was to go to dangerous places to search for treasures. There were too many historical remains in the flying immortal world, and there were too many treasure land. There were countless treasures inside. With some valuable treasures, it would be easy to buy a manor. Lu Li had chosen the third way. The second way would take too long, and he didn't think it was safe. The wild was not as safe as the city. There were patrols. What could the patrols do if some powerful warrior tried to assassinate him without leaving any evidence? At the very least, the four-armed race could hire assassins. There would be assassins willing to do it for the cost of celestial stones. Therefore, Lu Li chose to go to some lands of treasure. If he could dig out some treasures, it would be the end of the matter once and for all. The waiter told Lu Li more than a dozen places. Every year, treasures could be dug out from those places, but they were dangerous. Every year, many would die in those places. As for where to go, it was up to Lu Li to decide. After pondering for a long time, he decided to leave the nearby Black Fox Mountain. This mountain had been discovered more than 10 years ago, and it was confirmed to be the tomb of an old devil. The treasures on the periphery had already been taken, but there should still be treasures inside. Lu Li chose to go to those lands of treasures because he had Blood Fairy, a master in divine inscriptions. He believed that with Blood Fairy around, he would have a high chance of obtaining treasures. Besides, he had the Holy Mountain, so he didn't have to worry about its defenses. So, digging for treasures was the best option. He wandered around Black Tortoise City for a few more days, roughly understanding the situation inside. He also discovered the existence of the human race, and the number of humans living in the city was not small. The humans here had also come from the fourth heaven realm back then. They were a super big clan, the Dai clan. Their clan's disciples and peripheral personnel added up to hundreds of thousands of people. Luli also saw the legendary Desolate race. This race looked similar to humans. The only difference was that they had a blue diamond-shaped tattoo in between their eyebrows. It was very obvious. Their hair was also blue. This race was generally slightly taller than the human race. The men were handsome, and the women were gentle and beautiful. However, their temperament was cold, and they were expressionless to anyone. Luli found many large shops and auction houses in the city. Whatever one wanted, one could buy it as long as one had celestial stones. Luli even saw a holy weapon in a large shop. It was not a powerful holy weapon, but it was a holy weapon nonetheless. It was placed in the hall. A few days later, Luli had learned a lot of information. He had gained some understanding of the Black Tortoise City. He had been eavesdropping and had learned a lot. Let's go. 10 days later, Luli's token began to melt. He hurried out. Outside the city, he did not go to the Black Fox Mountain. Instead, he took a detour. He traveled for thousands of miles and found a place to enter the Holy Mountain. The Holy Mountain shrank. Luli told the Holy Mountain to conceal its energy. Then, he used the trace of Tao to sense. Whoosh! Not long afterward, Luli heard a slight noise coming from behind him. Then, a strand of psychic power came like a breeze. When the psychic power locked onto the Holy Mountain, it trembled. Buzzing! Luli flew the Holy Mountain over and stopped above the warrior's head. He said coldly, "You are here to track me down, right? Who sent you?" It was a warrior of a strange race. He was skinny and looked like a monkey. He had a protruding mouth and cheeks, and there was hair on his face. He was not strong, only at the quasi-emperor realm. That alien race warrior was noticed by Luli, but he didn't mind. He said casually, "This mountain belongs to you? Can't I just pass by?" "Pass by?" Luli snorted. "You have been watching me for a few days in the city. You think I don't know? You have the guts to do it but not the guts to admit it? So what if I admit it?" The skinny alien race warrior snorted. "Do you have the guts to kill me? If I really kill you and destroy your body, what can you do to me?" Luli responded with a question. "You can try." The skinny alien race warrior sneered. "If you do something here and I die, the Desolate race has a strange way to track you down." Luli was a bit surprised. He smiled and said, "Then go on. I want to see if you can catch up with me. You are just a nobody." Whoosh! The Holy Mountain tore through the air at an extremely fast speed, disappearing into the distance in the blink of an eye. The skinny alien race warrior's eyes were wide open and his mouth was agape. Luli was so fast that he couldn't catch up with Luli even if he broke his legs. After a while, Luli stopped the Holy Mountain. Then, he got out and flew towards the Black Fox Mountain. It was easy to find the Black Fox Mountain. It took Luli 2 days to find it. The mountain was not big and it was made up of black rock. It looked like a black fox, which was why it was named the Black Fox Mountain. Luli circled around the mountain to make sure that there were no warriors lurking around. Then, he rushed toward the mouth of the Black Fox Mountain. There was a cave there which was clearly the entrance. After entering the entrance, Luli walked along a mountain path. Not long after, he saw a gate, but it had been broken. Walking into the main hall, it was also a mess. Many places had been destroyed, and some walls had large holes dug out. It was likely that some of the night pearls and the like had been dug out. Luli moved on. Along the way, he saw halls, corridors, and side halls. But they were all ruined and hollowed out. Many glyphs were destroyed. It had been a long time since this place was discovered. Many powerful warriors must have come in to search. "Blood Fairy, it is up to you." Luli was not in the mood to search. There were many halls like a maze. Luli's head was getting dizzy after walking around. He might as well let Blood Fairy do the work. Blood Fairy only needed to go and find out which glyphs were not destroyed. Then there must be treasures in the halls. There was no need to search where the glyphs were broken. Chapter 30:25. It turned out that Lu Li's method was effective and accurate. In less than half a day, Blood Fairy sent a message to Han's senator. She had searched the entire place and found only 2 halls whose divine inscriptions hadn't been broken. Since the inscriptions hadn't been broken, there must be treasures inside. Lu Li followed Blood Fairy and wandered around. Eventually they came to a dead end. Normally, people would turn around when they saw a dead end. They did not know that there was a hidden hall here. "Master, wait a minute," Blood Fairy said after a while. "There are not only powerful defensive runes here, but also formations of destruction. I might need half a month to crack them all." "Don't worry." Lu Li sat on the spot and cultivated. Half a month passed by in the blink of an eye. He was filled with anticipation. He wondered what was in the hall. Half a month later, the blocked wall suddenly lit up. Then, a door appeared. Lu Li pushed it open and used psychic power to check. It was a small hall. The hall was empty. There were not many things in it. Lu Li only saw 5 vats filled with some green liquid. The 5 vats were protected by divine rune shields and they were still open. "What kind of liquid is this?" Lu Li walked into the hall and stared at the vats for a while. He said to Blood Fairy, "Crack the rune and let's see." "This is just a small rune." "Now," Blood Fairy said. Not long after, the divine glyph was broken, and a rich aroma filled the air. Blood Fairy, seal the rune. The aroma was so strong that it was equivalent to a great amount of efficacy being released. Lu Li did not want to waste it. He told Blood Fairy to set up the rune. The small rune could be set up quickly. A moment later, a shield came up and the aroma disappeared. Lu Li stopped looking and put the 5 vats into his interspatial ring. Making sure that there was nothing else in the small hall, Lu Li asked Blood Fairy to crack open another hall. That hall was located in the deepest part of the ground. The rune was strong. It took Blood Fairy over a month to crack open the rune. Whoosh! Before Lu Li could enter the gate, a gust of wind blew by. A person dashed into the hall. "You want to pick peaches?" Lu Li flew into a rage. He took out a stamp stone to record everything and then released his soul skill at once. That warrior's battle prowess wasn't considered strong. He only had the battle prowess of an ordinary overlord. After being struck, his speed was greatly reduced, and his face was filled with pain. Lu Li walked over in strides, stared at the man coldly and said, "How dare you take my treasures? Do you want to die? Humph, you dare to make a move in the flying celestial world?" It was a man with a pointy head, resembling a corn bud. He looked at Lu Li mockingly. "I will definitely report this matter to the Black Warrior Institute. At that time, you can die. You think it's reasonable for you to steal my treasure?" Holding the seal stone in his hand, Lu Li said, "I've recorded everything that happened just now and now. According to the iron law of the flying immortal world, even if I injure you, the Black Warrior Mansion will not pursue this matter. Are you going to scram or not? If you don't scram, I'll cripple you." The warrior shrunk his head, gritted his teeth and said, "You win." The warrior left quickly. Lu Li went into the hall and asked Blood Fairy to seal off the divine runes in case someone broke in. That overlord warrior was strange. He didn't make any sound. Lu Li didn't even know that he was right next to him. If Lu Li had been ambushed and this warrior was strong enough, Lu Li would have died. There were hundreds of races, and many of them had their own special skills. In this galaxy, if one underestimated an enemy, one might not even know how he died. The hall was spacious with many relic weapons and treasures. Lu Li curled his lips at a glance. There seemed to be a lot of treasures here, piled up in several piles. But they were not the best. There were just some average relic weapons and armors. There wasn't even a single relic weapon. "What? There are 3 boxes over there?" Lu Li saw several boxes in the corner. He hurried over. The boxes were all engraved with divine runes, but Blood Fairy opened them as soon as she went over. Not bad. Luli felt relieved when he opened the 3 boxes. There were relic weapons in the 3 boxes. One was a weapon, one was an armor, and the third was a bead. Luli put away all the relic weapons and searched the hall. He left after making sure that there were no other treasures in the hall. Blood Fairy checked to make sure that there were no other treasures in the hall. Then, Luli left with Blood Fairy. Moving on. With Blood Fairy's help, it was so easy to search through the ruins. He didn't even have to do anything, and yet he had easily obtained a pile of treasures. Although there were no holy weapons, the weapons and the 5 vats of divine liquid were definitely valuable. Luli took out a map that Blood Fairy drew. He checked the direction and flew toward the northwest. There was a large ruin over there. It was dangerous, but he was not afraid now. Not even powerful divine runes could kill him. The Holy Mountain's defense was impressive. Along the way, Luli encountered many beasts. Previously, he didn't dare to kill them. But this time, he didn't hold back. As long as he encountered any ferocious beasts, he would kill all of them, unless they were too powerful. If he felt that killing them was too strenuous, he would not bother. Luli's formations were strong. He could trap beasts at the peak of the Imperial realm. However, those beasts were strong in defense. It would be difficult for Luli to kill them all. Along the way, Luli ran into another frigid iron battleship. It was a law enforcement team led by a powerful warrior of the wild race. There was one warrior from each race. The weakest of them was at the Imperial realm, and there were many Saint Kings. The law enforcement team saw Luli, but they didn't pay much attention. They just threw him a quick glance and the battleship flew into the distance. Luli flew on for over 10 days. Finally, he arrived at his second destination. This was a famous ruin. It was the burial ground of a powerful warrior that was well known across the entire barren region. He once wiped out more than a dozen small races. He had many treasures with him. Before his life came to an end, he found a tomb and spent 100 years to set it up. He made it clear that no one from the 33 races could enter or the tomb would explode. Before he died, he talked to the family leader of the wild race. The family leader also said that no one from the 33 races could enter. This graveyard had attracted countless experts from smaller races in the past, including many Saint Kings. Quite a few treasures had been dug out. Of course, many died as well. Even a Saint King from a small race died in there. Emperor Kuan's tomb. The Kuan Emperor's tomb had already existed for over 200,000 years, and the number of experts that had entered this place was innumerable. Most of the treasures inside had been dug out, including the main hall's divine inscriptions. There were treasures left, but Emperor Kuan's famous holy weapons and treasures were all taken away. The rest of the treasures were of no interest to the Saint Kings. Also, many places were dangerous. Those Saint Kings didn't want to take the risk. Average warriors could not decipher the runes. Gradually, people stopped coming here. Emperor Kuan's tomb? Luli looked at the magnificent cemetery in front of him. He was excited. He wondered if there were other treasures here. If he could get his hands on a precious treasure that he had no use for, he could sell it and settle down in the Black Warrior City permanently. Chapter 30-26. Emperor Kuan's mausoleum was large. It was built openly on the mountainside. It was grand and luxurious. In front of the mausoleum was a plaza with a huge stone statue of Emperor Kuan. Next to it was a tablet that recorded Emperor Kuan's life. It was signed by the family patriarch of the wild race. Luli read it carefully. The evaluation of Emperor Kuan was objective. There was no praise for Emperor Kuan. It was just a record of Emperor Kuan's deeds. It was clearly stated that disciples of the 33 races were not allowed to enter or they would become enemies of the wild race. It was also stated that the Hall of Kuan was the burial place of Emperor Kuan. There were no treasures in the hall. Nobody was allowed to enter the hall or destroy the runes in the hall. Otherwise, they would be hunted down by the wild race. So, Emperor Kuan and the wild race are on good terms. Luli walked in after a while. Many halls were broken open and empty. There was nothing inside. Some luminous pearls on the walls were taken away. Some doors were even taken away. Luli did not look around. Since this place had a history of 100,000 years and was a famous place in the entire barren universe, he did not need to check the average halls. There would be nothing here. Blood Fairy went to check while Luli walked around in the hall. There were some murals on the walls. They were exquisite. Though there was no trace of Tao, they were beautiful nonetheless. 2 days passed. Luli did not disturb Blood Fairy. He waited patiently. Blood Fairy did not disappoint him. The result was satisfactory. Master, I found 4 complete halls. There should be treasures in each of these halls. But the halls are engraved with runes. If you rely on your physical strength, you will be killed instantly. Killed instantly? Luli was surprised. Were the runes here that horrifying? He asked. If I fly over on the sacred mountain, can I withstand it? I think so. Blood Fairy answered, but don't worry. I will try to crack it first. If I can, you won't have to take the risk. Okay. Luli nodded and followed Blood Fairy's directions. After the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, he arrived at a dilapidated hall after many twists and turns. Master, stay here and cultivate. Don't go any further. If you go any further, there will be a divine inscriptions killing formation. Blood Fairy left after she left. Luli sat down in the hall and continued to cultivate. He wanted to further improve his understanding of the divine inscriptions and other secret arts. For example, he felt that there was still room for improvement in the Soul Sword. The Kuan Emperor's mausoleum had been in existence for many years. Those who should have come to hunt for treasures had come a long time ago. There were no treasures here, only dangers. Therefore, Luli had been cultivating here for half a month without seeing a single warrior. Blood Fairy did not reply. Luli stood up and went to the hall outside. He set up some divine runes, small ones that could serve as alarms. With that done, Luli went back to cultivate. This time, he cultivated for over 3 months. Finally, Blood Fairy said, Master, you have cracked it. All right. Luli opened his eyes in delight. He was about to step in when Blood Fairy said, Master, do not wander around. You must take the holy mountain. The formations outside are not broken yet. Oh, I see. Luli went into the holy mountain at once. The holy mountain shrank. Blood Fairy flew the mountain in. As soon as Luli went in, the divine runes kept on glaring. Rays of light blasted down. It was as if tens of thousands of arrows were fired at the same time. It was as if thunder was rumbling. Boom, 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 boom. Countless rays of light landed on the holy mountain. The mountain trembled, but nothing happened. The holy mountain moved forward slowly and went through the hall. After passing through the palace, the divine inscriptions stopped attacking. There was a door in front of them, and Blood Fairy's voice rang out. Master, open this door and you'll arrive at the palace. Everything is safe here, don't worry. Luli went out at once and pushed the door open. The moment he opened the door, he felt he could not keep his eyes open. There were so many weapons in the hall that they filled up half of the hall. Wow, so many sovereign weapons? Luli was taken aback. He saw at least 5 or 6 great emperor weapons, and the rest were not average weapons. Many of the weapons were engraved with dense divine runes. They were as strong as mountains. There must be tens of thousands of weapons here. Luli exclaimed to himself. How rich was Emperor Kuan back in the days. Almost all the treasures in the tomb of Emperor Kuan had been taken away. What was left were just some scraps. Luli did not expect that there were so many relic weapons. Those relic weapons were thrown on the ground randomly. It seemed that they were not taken seriously. This Emperor Kuan was extremely wealthy. Back in the days, he lived up to his reputation as a powerful warrior in the Infinite Region. Lu Li put away all the relic weapons. He looked around and left after making sure that there were no more treasures. He rode the holy mountain back to the second hall. This hall also had complicated divine runes. But compared to the first hall, this one was much simpler. In a little over a month, the divine runes were solved. Once again, Lu Li was overjoyed to see this hall. There were piles of relic, many of which he had never seen before. Many of the relic were in jade boxes. Clearly, they were of high level. I am rich. Lu Li took a casual look. There were at least tens of thousands of relic here. The relic that could catch the eye of such a powerful warrior could not be mediocre. It must be worth a lot of celestial stones. The third hall took Lu Li 2 months. It was filled with relic. Lu Li did not know many of them, but since they could be here, they must be of good quality. There were hundreds of thousands of relic. If he could sell them, he could earn a huge amount of celestial stones. There was one last hall left. This time, it took longer, more than 4 hours. When Lu Li went in, he was stunned. The hall inside was spacious. However, there were no piles of treasures like before. There was only a small box. Lu Li opened the box. There was a bottle with only one pellet in it. Lu Li did not dare to open it casually. He just checked it. He did not know what the use of the pellet was. That being said, it must be a treasure or else it would not be placed in this hall alone. Blood Fairy, do you have more? Lu Li asked eagerly. If there were more treasures in several halls, he could afford a manor at the Black Tortoise City. I will go and have a look. Blood Fairy snuck into the ground. After half a day she said, Master, there is only one hall left. I don't think there are any treasures in it. There is only a bronze coffin. Oh, I don't think so. Lu Li nodded. It was clearly stated outside that no treasures could be found in that hall. No one could go in. Let's go back. Lu Li waved his hand. He had gained a lot this time, but he did not know the value. Was it enough to buy a residence in the Black Tortoise City? Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leader's Mobile Version. Chapter 30-27. The journey back was also very smooth. They encountered quite a few ferocious beasts along the way, but with the sacred mountain, there was naturally no problem. Lu Li traded for hundreds of Heaven Kirin stones at the black market outside the city. He didn't take out the elixirs he got from the 2 ruins. Instead, he took out the elixirs he had before. He had a lot of them anyway. It was expensive to buy things from the black market, but it was cheap to sell them. Naturally, Lu Li wouldn't sell things from the black market. After paying 10 days of entry fees, he walked to the largest merchant association in the city, the Desolate Races Merchant Association. As the name suggested, this merchant association was run by the Desolate Race. The prices were fair and they did not cheat anyone. The Desolate Race's reputation was guaranteed, so there was no need to be afraid of being scammed when doing business here. Sir, are you buying or selling? An elder came forward with a smile. This elder was clearly not a member of the Desolate Race. He was likely someone hired by the Desolate Race. Selling things. Lu Li said lightly, that is a lot. Take me to your lord. All right, sir, please. The elder smiled as he brought Lu Li into a side hall. There were 2 members of the Desolate Race inside. One of them was an elder standing, while the other was a woman sitting behind a table. The Desolate Race was similar to the human race, but their auras were different. The Desolate Race's aura was very unique and could be easily sensed. There was a diamond-shaped blue mark between their eyebrows that looked like a blue flame. Lu Li's eyes lit up when he saw the Desolate Race girl in front of him. She was very young and very beautiful. She had a rich aura of the Desolate Race on her, giving off a different vibe. Most importantly, this woman had actually reached the realm of Saint Kings. although she seemed to have broken through not too long ago. Reaching the realm of Saint Kings at such a young age made people sigh at the strength of the desolate race. This woman was the same as the rest of the desolate race. She had an extremely cold demeanor and a straight face. It was as if everyone owed her millions of celestial stones, making her look pale. Miss Lee, Elder 2, this guest wants to sell a treasure. The old man went in and respectfully reported. Miss Li and Elder 2 looked over. Miss Li quickly lowered her head and continued to look at the accounts in her hands. Elder 2 walked over and said, "What does this customer want to sell?" Luli took out an interspatial ring he had prepared and said, "Lord, please give me a price." The spatial ring was filled with divine medicines obtained from the Kuan Emperor tomb. Tu Lao received it and quickly revealed a trace of surprise in his eyes as he said, "These divine herbs are not bad. I will give you a round figure. 10,000 celestial stones." Luli raised his eyebrows and asked, "Lord, don't you need to compare them one by one? There are many types of divine medicines here." Elder 2 smiled faintly, but there wasn't much of a smile on his face. He seemed to be putting on a fake smile. He said, "I've been here for 100,000 years, and have come into contact with millions of divine medicines. Do you think I would make a mistake? The desolate race's reputation will not be destroyed in my hands. You have black heartgrass, 7 flames leaf." Patriarch 2 casually told Luli the names of the elixirs. With that said, he took out a booklet from his interspatial ring, handed it to Luli and said, "Here are the names and prices of the elixirs. If you are afraid of getting it wrong, you can do it yourself. I believe in your desolate race's credibility." Luli glanced over but didn't calculate it. He would be satisfied if he could sell it for 10,000 celestial stones. The elixirs he brought from the third heaven could only be sold for a few hundred celestial stones. Luli took out another interspatial ring. It was filled with divine materials. When the elder took it over, he was surprised again. This time, he looked at it for a long time. After the time for one incense stick to burn, he said, "You should have more than 10,000 celestial stones. I will round it up to 18,000 celestial stones. We have the same booklet. You can compare them one by one." "That won't be necessary." Luli didn't even look at the booklet. He waved his hand and said, "If I didn't trust the desolate race, I wouldn't have come here." Luli took out the third interspatial ring. It was filled with relics, including the Emperor weapons. For him, Emperor weapons were not of much use. The divine chains of order were far more powerful than Emperor weapons. When the elder took it over, he seemed to be relieved. He looked up at Luli and said, "I didn't know that you had entered the Kuan Emperor's tomb. You've already broken through the last few halls in there." The lady behind the counter raised her head in astonishment. She stared at Luli with curiosity in her eyes. Who in the entire star region didn't know how powerful the divine patterns in the Kuan Emperor's tomb were? How could Luli solve them? What mattered was that Luli was too young. Divine patterns could only be learned over time. Young people were busy cultivating and improving their abilities. They didn't have the time to study divine patterns. Luli asked, "What is it? Can't I go to the Kuan Emperor's tomb?" "Not really." Master Tu shook his head. "Anyone can go to the treasured lands outside the realm of flying immortals. It is up to one's ability to get what you want. Then name your price." Luli was looking forward to it. He wondered how much the relic weapons were worth. Luli had calculated it at 28,000 celestial stones. If the weapons here were worth 60,000 or 70,000 celestial stones, it would be enough. The elder calculated for a long time. After the time for one incense stick to burn, he said, 50,000 celestial stones. They are not worth that much, but the relic weapons are marked by Kuan Emperor. They can be regarded as works of art. I will give you a higher price. 50,000? Luli was disappointed. 50,000 would only add up to 78,000 celestial stones. He still needed more than 20,000 celestial stones. He thought about it and took out the vats of liquid he got from the Black Fox Mountain. He asked, "Are they valuable?" "Not at all." Master Tu shook his head. "They are used to refine the body. There are many of them in the star region of Infinite Region. I think they are worth 2,000 celestial stones at most." Still not enough. Luli thought about it, took out the jade bottle and handed it over. "Are they valuable?" The pellet was in a hall. Luli believed it must be valuable if there was only one pellet in such a large hall. Master Tu took it over but didn't open it. He checked it and his eyes lit up. He shouted, "Heaven Core Pellet! There is such a pellet in the Kuan Emperor's tomb?" "Heaven Core Pellet?" Lady Li suddenly stood up and dashed over. She grabbed the bottle and checked it. Then she said with a rare smile, "It really is Heaven Core Pellet. 2,000,000 celestial stones. We will take it." Master Tu offered Luli a price without any hesitation. 2,000,000? Luli thought he had heard it wrong. He knew the pellet was valuable but didn't know it was worth so much. The pellets he offered were only worth tens of thousands of celestial stones. This one was worth 2,000,000? Luli didn't say yes. Instead, he asked, "What is it for?" Before Master Tu could answer, Lady Li interrupted, 3,000,000. "Will you sell it?" Luli didn't expect that his question would increase the price by 1,000,000. At this moment, he didn't want to sell it. There were so many relics out there. With Blood Fairy, he could get treasures easily. He only needed tens of thousands of celestial stones. There was no hurry. Clearly, the Heaven Core Pellet was a treasure. It must be of great help to warriors' cultivation. The real good stuff could not be bought even with celestial stones. Seeing that Luli didn't say anything, Lady Li said again, 4,000,000. Will you sell it? Luli shook his head decisively. I am sorry. I will not sell it. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leader's Mobile Version. Chapter 30:28. In the third layer of heaven, good things were priceless. This was because the superclans did not lack things like divine origin heaven stones. Naturally, they would not sell the truly good things. Even if they wanted to sell them, they would use treasures of equivalent value to exchange. Lady Li's status in the desolate race was not low. As the most powerful race in the infinite star region, she had seen all kinds of good things. Now that she was moved by a pellet and was increasing the price, it meant that the pellet was very precious. Since it was good, it could not be sold. Lady Li's expression turned cold. She said in a deep voice, "Are you messing with us? If you are not selling, why are you taking it out?" Luli said with a faint smile, "I don't know what this is, but I know it's very precious. Since it's good stuff, I naturally want to keep it for myself. Your desolate race is free to do business, so there's no such thing as forced buying or selling, right?" "Of course not," Lady Li said coldly. "If you are not willing to sell, I will not force you. But the Heaven Marrow Pellet is meaningless to you. It is more useful to my race. It is used to refine the body. My race has no lack of such pellet. But the Grandmaster that can refine the Heaven Marrow Pellet is dead. There are almost no more of them. That is why I am offering such a price." Body refining? Luli's eyes lit up. He cultivated in both spirit and martial arts. His focus was on his soul and body. He didn't care much about skills and fundamental principles. It had been a long time since his body was improved. Now that there was a chance, he would not miss it. He thought about it and said, "I am sorry, Lady Li. I also cultivate in body refining, so I will use the pellet myself. Is it important for me to have a strong body?" "You also cultivate in body refining?" Lady Li sneered and said, "You humans are born with weak bodies. What's the point of cultivating in body refining? Can you reach the peak of the Imperial Realm? Ha ha ha. Lu Li laughed and said, Can humans not cultivate their bodies? My body is almost at the peak of the Imperial Realm. Don't brag. Lady Li sneered. If your body can barely reach the peak of the Imperial Realm, I will give you 10,000 celestial stones. If not, how about selling the Heaven Marrow pellet to me? Okay. Lu Li was overjoyed. He didn't expect that someone would offer him celestial stones. He grinned and said, Patriarch 2 can be my witness. Lady Li, don't go back on your words. Old 2 had a bad feeling, but since Miss Li said it, how could he refute it? He could only nod and say, My family's young miss words naturally count. All right. Lu Li said with confidence, Can I show you my physical strength? Will the soldiers in the city say anything? Of course not. Old 2 felt a sense of unease in his heart. He blasted out a beam of light that illuminated the entire great hall. Old 2 had activated his divine imprints. Divine Dragon Transformation! Lu Li shouted. His robe burst apart and then he was covered in scales. Dragon wings grew out from his back, dragon horns on his head, dragon tail on his back, and his hands turned into dragon claws. At the same time, he released the dragon wrestling skill which strengthened his physical strength by 10 times. Lu Li's powerful qi and energy spread out. Lady Li and Patriarch 2 were surprised. A warrior at the initial stage of the Emperor realm could release a skill that could make his body comparable to that of a warrior at the peak of the Emperor realm? More importantly, Lu Li was a human and humans did not have any special abilities. You are not a human? Lady Li's eyes grew colder. She snorted. You pretended to be a human and cheated me of 10,000 celestial stones. You have guts. Cough cough. Old 2 coughed awkwardly and said, Lady Li, he is a human. This is a skill he cultivated. Lady Li snorted and walked out. She said, Give him 10,000 celestial stones. I am done checking the account. I am leaving. Old 2 took out 10,000 celestial stones and said with a straight face, Kid, this Lady Li of my race has a bad temper. Ha ha. Lu Li said disapprovingly, The flying celestial realm does not allow violence. Do you think your lady will eat me up? Of course, if the wild race violates the rules of the flying celestial realm, then it will be too easy for me to be killed. Old 2 said nothing more. Lu Li thought about it and said, Sell the things in these interspatial rings. We will do it at the price you offered. 78,000 celestial stones plus the 10,000 that Lady Li lost to him. That would make him 88,000 celestial stones. If he could sell some more treasures, then he would have 100,000 celestial stones. Lu Li thought about it. There was nothing else he could sell. He didn't want to sell the valuable ones. The rest were not worth much, and he wouldn't get many celestial stones. Let me go out again. Lu Li made up his mind. With Blood Fairy around, it would be too easy for him to dig up treasures. He could go to 2 other places of treasure and gather tens of thousands of celestial stones to buy a residence. With more celestial stones, he could buy some cultivation resources. After the deal was done, Lu Li walked out. He thought about it and walked towards a tavern. He wanted to ask a waiter for more information. With celestial stones, Lu Li was emboldened. He asked for a private room and ordered a table full of dishes. He spent more than 1,000 celestial stones and enjoyed the meal. Then, he asked the waiter for more information. Place of treasure? The waiter thought about it and said, Speaking of places of treasure, there has been news in the last half a month that a new place of treasure has been discovered in the southeast. Many powerful warriors have gone there. I heard that a patrol team was sent there in case of violence. It is a place of treasure like the Kuan Emperor's tomb. It is said that there are many treasures there. Well, it is called the Tomb of Emperor Yin. Oh! Lu Li's interest was piqued. If there was a patrol team there, then it would be absolutely safe. Who would dare to make a move under the watchful eyes of the patrol team? That would be courting death. The tomb had just been discovered. Many patterns in the hall might not have been cracked yet. If Blood Fairy could crack some patterns in the hall, that would be enough for him to live for hundreds of years. Good. This is for you. Luli threw 100 celestial stones to the waiter and asked him to bring him a map. Luli decided to go there. With the patrol team there, he felt safe. Soon, the waiter brought over a map with the tomb of Emperor Een circled out. Luli waved the waiter away. The waiter left with respect and then went to another private room where an old man was sitting. He was a powerful warrior of the four-armed race. "Lord, everything is done," the waiter said with a smile. "Well done. Take it." Patriarch 16 of the four-armed race threw out an interspatial ring. The waiter was overjoyed to see that there were 5,000 celestial stones in the ring. He thanked Luli and left. Luli left the tavern after he was full. He did not rest. Instead, he went to another tavern. He asked around and was sure that the tomb of Emperor Een did exist. Recently, many powerful warriors in the city had gone there. The tomb of Emperor Een was far away. Luli wanted to go there as soon as possible. He was afraid that all the good stuff would be taken away. Therefore, he did not linger. He left the city at once. Patriarch 16 stood behind the window of the tavern. He looked at Luli's back with a sneer and murmured, "The tomb of Emperor Een is indeed a place of treasure. But not everyone can go there. Punk, you will die in the tomb of Emperor Een." Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leader's Mobile Version. Chapter 3029. The tomb of Emperor Een was quite popular recently. Luli found the tomb in the Kuan Mausoleum. When it was dug up, the sky was lit up and the scene was astonishing. Emperor Een was a famous warrior who had passed away more than 100,000 years ago. But his tomb had never been discovered. The latest to arrive were some powerful warriors from the Black Tortoise City. They happened to be passing by and one of them was a Saint Emperor. But 5 of them went in. In the end, only one of them at the peak of the Great Emperor realm made it out. The others all died in there. This caused a sensation at the Black Tortoise City. Usually, the more powerful the runes in the tomb, the more powerful the owner and the more treasures there were. A large number of powerful warriors hurried over. It was confirmed that the owner of the tomb was the Asmodean Emperor Een. This old devil was the nightmare of many clans. Compared to him, bone devils were completely insignificant. He was a real hero. Back in the days, he was brave enough to fight against the 33 races. Emperor Een was different from Emperor Kuan. Emperor Kuan was on good terms with the Desolate race. The Desolate race ordered disciples of the 33 races not to go in. Therefore, none of the 33 races went in to hunt for treasures. Emperor Een was different. After the tomb of Emperor Een was discovered, many powerful warriors of the 33 races were sent out. But almost all of them were of the younger generation. This was the norm. The races would let the younger generation go in to hunt for treasures, giving them a chance to gain experience. What kind of treasures did the 33 races not have? What kind of elixirs? The 33 races were not in need of anything. They were not interested in Emperor Yin's treasures. They would give them to the younger generation. It took Luli more than half a month to get here. As he approached the outer area, he noticed that there were warriors everywhere. Powerful warriors were hiding in many places. Luli didn't approach rashly. He hid nearby and saw a winter iron warship patrolling in the distance. That was a patrol team. With the warship patrolling nearby, no warriors dared to do anything. Anyone that dared to do anything would be killed immediately. So many alien races. There must be at least thousands. Luli sensed that there were at least thousands of warriors hiding nearby. Many great emperors and saint emperors were not seen. The classification of levels in the desolate universe was the same as the 3 heavens. But many races had different names. Still, great emperors were great emperors and saint emperors were saint emperors. There was a fundamental difference, so it was easy to tell. Why are they not going in? What do you mean by lurking outside? Luli could not figure it out. He wandered around and noticed that there were warriors lurking around the mountain where the tomb of Emperor En was located. There were many on the mountain as well. But those on the mountain were stronger. Only those of the great Emperor realm could go up. After waiting for a moment, the mountain suddenly shook, and a multicolored light sprayed out. The martial artists, who were hiding in the surroundings, instantly went berserk. All of them soared into the sky and rushed towards that multicolored light. It can spit out treasures? Luli used psychic power to check. There were at least hundreds of elixirs, weapons and materials in the glow. Over 10,000 martial artists flew up to snatch those treasures. Since it was a robbery, there would naturally be conflicts and impulsiveness. Many cultivators almost started fighting. A cold snort came from the frost iron warship. All the martial artists immediately restrained themselves and very amicably divided up these hundreds of treasures. It was like trying to put out a cart of firewood with a cup of water. Luli could not figure out why they didn't go in when he saw tens of thousands of people fighting for hundreds of treasures. After thinking for a while, he quietly snuck up the mountain and began to scan the mountain with his spiritual will. Soon, he found the source of the problem. There were many divine glyphs on the mountain and powerful warriors were building them. The mountain was covered in mist. When Luli arrived at the foot of the mountain, the mist was so thick that he could not even use psychic power. Disciples of the 33 major races. Luli understood now. The tomb of Emperor En must have been occupied by powerful warriors of the 33 races. They did not take any actions. They were just building divine glyph. Those who dared to go up would be strangled to death by the divine glyph. Taking the initiative to attack and challenging the divine inscriptions were two completely different concepts. If one was not as skilled as others and could not crack the divine glyphs, and if one wanted to take the risk despite being weak, one would have no one to blame when one died. Of course, both initiating and passive killing were crimes. That being said, the rules were set by the 33 races and the law enforcers were powerful warriors of the 33 races. Who could say anything? Who dared to do anything? The dominance of the 33 races was manifesting itself in an imperceptible way. Luli was not frightened. He had nothing to be afraid of as long as they did not take action. There were so many eyes here and the warship of the law enforcement team was here. Who dared to kill him in public? What was more, he had the sacred mountain which was strong. Not even Saint Kings could kill him. Luli sneaked up the mountain. As long as he could go in and ask Blood Fairy to crack the divine glyphs in one of the halls, he could leave after making some money. By then, he could settle down at the Black Tortoise City. The divine glyphs on the mountain were not a big deal. Luli sent Blood Fairy out. He did not even need to crack the divine glyph. Blood Fairy could guide him. In the time for half an incense stick to burn, Luli made it to the top. What? There were some powerful warriors from different races at the top and they were all young. They were confused to see Luli coming up so easily. Are you from the Dai family? A man with a head full of golden hair, who looked like a lion, glanced at them and asked. Luli did not answer. He stood there with pride and glanced around. The more humble he was, the more likely he would get himself into trouble. Since others were sure that he was from the Dai family, he did not deny it. I don't think there is anyone in the Dai family. Is he a hidden warrior of the Dai family? I think so. He is young and he can crack the divine glyphs so easily without making a sound. He must be a warrior trained in secret. Several powerful warriors murmured. Luli paid no attention to them. He swaggered toward a hole at the top of the mountain. There were 3 holes here. 2 of them were made by nature. They must be the holes for spewing out treasures. One was excavated, and he was walking towards the excavated cave. The cave was deep, and he could not see the bottom. But he could sense that there were many powerful warriors in there. Seeing that nobody was going to stop him, Luli flew down and went deeper. As he flew deeper into the cave, his spiritual force soon discovered a large hall at the bottom of the cave. There were over 100 warriors in the hall, sitting on different sides. There were dozens of doors here as well. Many of them had been broken down. As Luli landed, many people were looking at him. Luli glanced over and saw a familiar face. Lady Eli was here, what? There were 3 warriors of the wild race standing next to Lady Eli. The other 2 were Saint Emperors. Lady Eli was surprised to see Luli. She snorted and said, "How dare you come in here? You must be tired of living." "You are finally in," a warrior covered in a black robe glanced at Luli. His eyes were filled with coldness. When the red dragon race in the corner saw Luli, their eyes lit up. They were happy. "Human," a voice was heard. In a corner, a young master in a luxurious robe frowned. Then, he walked toward Luli with a beautiful lady. "Young master and lady of the Dai family?" Luli noticed the man and lady. They were both humans, which made him feel a sense of familiarity. However, the condescending look in the young master's eyes made Luli feel uneasy. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leader's Mobile Version. Chapter 30. The young master was handsome and the young lady was pretty. But the pride in their bones made Luli uncomfortable. He felt they were eagles in the sky and the others were puny ants on the ground. The young master and young lady of the Dai family walked over. The young master glanced at Luli. He was about the same height as Luli, but Luli felt the young master was looking down at him. The young master asked, "What is your name? Where are you from? Why haven't we seen you before?" The young master's tone was calm, but Luli felt he was being interrogated. Luli's temperament had changed. He was enraged, but he managed to swallow it down. He said, "I am Luli and I am from a small universe. I have just arrived at the infinite region not long ago. What can I do for you?" From a small universe? Dai Gongzi seemed to have expected this. He waved his hand and said, "Almost all the humans in the desolate universe have come to the Dai family. Do you want to join us? We will guarantee you a life of prosperity and splendor." Luli sneered and said, "I am sorry, but I like to be alone. I don't like to be someone else's dog." Bah! The young master of the Dai family was enraged. "You want to be a dog and we have to see if we want you? Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like this?" This young master of the Dai family was at the peak of the great emperor realm. He might be younger than Luli. Naturally, he was arrogant. Luli, a young emperor from a small universe, was beaming at him. "Ha ha ha!" Luli said with arrogance, "I am not a dog. I am just a human. You don't even deserve to be a human. What are you looking at? Do you want to fight? Come and bite me if you have the guts. You are just a piece of trash that relies on your family to do evil deeds." Courting death. The young master of the Dai family was enraged. He was filled with murderous intent. A long sword appeared in his hand. It was a holy weapon. He used it and was about to attack Luli. A saint king next to Lady Eli suddenly snorted. His voice was like a clap of thunder in the young master of the Dai family. The young lady of the Dai family grabbed his arm and said, "Brother Yu, this is the celestial realm." Phew, phew. The young master of the Dai family took a deep breath. He glared at Luli and said, "Stay in the flying immortal realm for the rest of your life if you can. If you dare to come out, I will kill you in an instant." "I'll stay here for the rest of my life. I'll piss you off." Luli answered slowly. Young Master Dai staggered and almost fell. The younger generation of the various races in the vicinity immediately roared with laughter. Young Master Dai was usually like this, and many powerhouses had long been displeased with him. Luli paid no more attention to this young Master Dai. He began to look around. He noticed a powerful warrior sitting outside many gates. They must be working on the inhibition formations. Buzz. After waiting for a moment, the door on the left suddenly flashed and opened silently. The powerhouses guarding outside immediately rushed in with joy. After entering, the door slammed shut with a loud bang. After that, a divine imprint lit up. Clearly, it was set up by the expert who broke the formation, and he didn't want others to enter. Luli smiled. He found a door and pretended to crack the formation. Blood Fairy had already snuck into his body to solve the runes. Master, this is not a difficult one. I can crack it in a day and a half, Blood Fairy said. Luli replied, when you are about to crack it, don't rush. Set up some runes first to stop others from coming in. Do you understand? No problem. Blood Fairy went to work at once. Luli pretended to observe from the outside. Every now and then, he would pour out Xian energy. It seemed that he was cracking the formation. Soon, a day and a half passed. Blood Fairy said on time, Master, it is done. I have set up a formation of entrapment and destruction as well. Okay, let's go, Luli said. The door glowed and opened quietly. Many people looked over in shock. Luli was such a young country bumpkin, and he was only at the minor emperor realm. It took him only a day and a half to crack a door. For many powerful warriors, it would take them at least 10 days to half a month to crack a door. Whoosh! Luli did not care about that. He dashed in. He did not close the door, but there came out a thick white mist. Clearly there was a formation. Whoosh! As soon as Luli went in, the black-robed man walked toward him and then forced his way into the white mist. Boom, 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 from the white mist came some noises. Clearly there was a formation of destruction. However, the black-robed man never came out. Luli could not tell if he had gone in or was killed. Let's go. The two Saint Kings of the Red Dragon race looked at each other and dashed in as well. With a loud noise, the two Saint Kings disappeared as well. What? Lady Eli frowned. She said to a Saint King of the wild race next to her, Patriarch D, is something wrong? Should we go in and have a look? I don't think so, Patriarch D said. At the very most they are going to take treasures. They will not kill. I think they know what they are doing. That is true, Lady Eli nodded. The two Red Dragon race patriarchs and that old Asmodean went in right in front of them. If Luli were to die, they would have to bear the blame. The wild race had a special skill that made it easy to track down the culprit. For example, if the two Red Dragon race patriarchs were to act recklessly, they would be dead for sure. The Red Dragon race would not dare to protect them either. The rule set by the 33 races was not to be violated by any powerful warrior. If there was no evidence, it would be fine. But if there was evidence, then everyone would have to die. The rule was not only the rule set by the 33 races, but also the dignity of the wild race. Breaking the rule was the greatest provocation to the wild race. Under the watchful eyes of all the powerful warriors of the various races, they saw the two Red Dragon race patriarchs and that old Asmodean go in. If Luli were to die, it would be the fault of the three powerful warriors. Master, Blood Fairy sensed the three powerful warriors going in. She said, 3 powerful warriors have come in. They should all be Saint Kings. A glint of coldness flashed in Luli's eyes. Powerful warriors had come in, and they had even forced their way through the formation of destruction and confinement. Naturally, the 3 of them were up to no good. Blood Fairy, can you set up a stronger formation of destruction and kill the 3 of them? Since there were powerful warriors up to no good, Luli would not be too kind. After all, these powerful warriors broke in by themselves. It was not their fault if they died. It will be difficult to kill a Saint King, Blood Fairy said. Then she added, also, I need time to set up the divine patterns. The stronger the divine patterns, the longer it takes. But they are about to come in. Buzzing, Luli took out the sacred mountain and entered it. At the same time, he flew along a corridor. It was not easy to open the door to the hall. The treasures inside must be in his hands first. Chapter 30-31. There was a long corridor here. Luli flew for the time for one incense stick to burn before he reached the end. Inside was a small hall. There was nothing in the small hall except for 2 doors. Clearly, there were inhibition formations on the door. Luli had Blood Fairy control the holy mountain to block the door, and then told her to crack the other 2 doors. The sacred mountain was of a medium size, just enough to block the door. If the warriors behind wanted to come in, they must knock the sacred mountain back. But could an ordinary Saint Emperor repel the Saint Mountain? What was more, if they did, they would create a loud noise. By then, all the powerful warriors outside would hear it and the wild race would be alerted. Blood Fairy tried to solve the formation as fast as she could while Luli tried to sense when the other powerful warriors would arrive. What surprised him was, after the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, not a single one came. He was a little puzzled. Were these experts lost? Or was Blood Fairy wrong? Blood Fairy would not make a mistake, and the warriors would not lose their way. What was the problem then? Luli could not figure it out. He had to wait. After 6 hours, Blood Fairy said, Master, a door is open. It had been 6 hours, but the warriors behind had not come. Luli could not figure it out. He asked Blood Fairy, but she was sure that some powerful warriors had come. Never mind. Luli dashed out and walked into the hall. He took a look and was surprised. We are rich. The elixirs here must be worth 100,000 celestial stones. There must be hundreds of thousands of elixirs piled up like a mountain. The quality of the elixirs here was similar to what he got from the Kuan Emperor's tomb, but the quantity was much higher. In other words, there must be at least 100,000 celestial stones. Luli asked Blood Fairy to crack the inhibition formations. A strong aroma spread out. Luli put away all the elixirs at once. Exposing them to the air would disperse the efficacy. Putting away the elixir, Luli returned to the sacred mountain to monitor the situation outside. He asked Blood Fairy to decipher other runes. It took him 6 hours to crack the inhibition formations. The 3 powerful warriors never showed up. Luli could not figure it out. He left it to another side hall. And it was a divine medicine. The main hall here was also filled with divine herbs, and the quantity was similar to the other side. This meant that the divine herbs here were also worth 100,000 celestial stones. He came in to take a look and obtained 200,000 celestial stones. Hee. Luli had achieved his goal. He didn't want the other treasures, not even the holy weapon. All Huang Xiaolong wanted to do was to return to Black Warrior City to buy a courtyard and cultivate in peace for a few years. Get out! Luli entered the sacred mountain, and so did Blood Fairy. The sacred mountain shrank and flew forward slowly. Buzz! After flying for a while, the space in front of them suddenly lit up. Following that, black smoke rose from the ground and enveloped the Saint Mountain. Then, the Saint Mountain actually stopped moving. That's right. The sacred mountain actually stopped moving. Luli and Blood Fairy could not believe this. The sacred mountain was powerful. How come it was not moving? He was trapped by some black fog. Divine inscription formation. At this moment, Luli finally understood why those powerful warriors did not show up. They did not go in. Instead, they were building a divine inscription formation outside, trying to trap Luli. The divine inscription formation was so strong that it could even contain the sacred mountain. Luli found it hard to believe. A moment later, he faintly sensed 2 people outside the formation. The Red Dragon Race. Lu Li could faintly sense the energy of the Red Dragon Race. The energy of dragons was strong. Lu Li was confused. He had never offended the Red Dragon Race. Why were they here to trap him? Blood Fairy, go and see what kind of formation it is. At Lu Li's order, Blood Fairy flew down. In the time for half an incense stick to burn, she came back. She was extremely weak. She said, "Master, the smoke outside is toxic. I cannot stand it. This is not a formation, but a powerful holy weapon." What? Lu Li was taken aback. He said after a moment of hesitation, "We have collected so many divine herbs. See if there is any that you need to consume. Go and replenish your energy." Okay. Blood Fairy snuck into Lu Li's interspatial ring to look for herbs that were suitable for her. Lu Li used the trace of Tao to sense what was going on outside. After a moment of silence, he shouted, "My friends from the Red Dragon Race? We have no quarrel. Why are you targeting me? By releasing the holy weapon, you are attacking me, right? Are you going to ignore the agreement of the 33 races? Aren't you afraid that the wild race will come after you?" Outside the dark haze were two patriarchs of the Red Dragon Race. Hearing Lu Li's words, one of them said with a smile, "It is true that the 33 races have an agreement that we cannot initiate an attack. But did we initiate an attack? We released the holy weapon here. Who are you to blame for barging in? We have recorded what happened just now. You controlled the mountain to fly over. You are attacking us." "Shameless," Lu Li cursed. From the perspective of the two red dragons, it was true that he was the one controlling the sacred mountain. It looked like he was the one attacking. The agreement of the 33 races was rigid. Naturally, there would be loopholes. If this matter was brought to the adjudicator hall, even if they were to be punished, the two patriarchs would not be sentenced to death. The Red Dragon Race was, after all, one of the 33 races. The wild race did not dare to go overboard. Otherwise, it would make the other races feel that they were too overbearing. If that happened, the other races would gang up on them, and the wild race would be wiped out. Lu Li pondered for a moment before shouting out again, "If the two of you want the treasures in here, I can give them to you. I have hundreds of thousands of divine herbs in here. I will give them all to you. How about that?" "Divine herbs? Of course we want them," the Red Dragon Patriarch said with a smile, "but this mountain of yours is not bad. Give it to me together and I will spare your life." "Dream on." Lu Li flatly refused. If he lost the sacred mountain, he would lose his greatest support. Although the sacred mountain was under their control, he was unharmed. If he were to hand over the sacred mountain, who knew if the two old fools would kill him? He sneered and said, "Since we can't come to an agreement, then let's not talk. If you have the ability to break the sacred mountain, then we will talk." "Ha ha ha." The Red Dragon Patriarch laughed and said, "Do you know what this holy weapon is called? This is the treasure of our race, the infernal prison. The black fog is poisonous. Your mountain is strong in defense, but the poisonous fog can seep in bit by bit. Once it completely seeps in, you will die. Back then, the Cauldron King of our race used the infernal prison to kill a holy warrior that was close to the consummation. Do you think you can survive it?" The Cauldron King was Ao Ding. The infernal prison was the treasure that made Ao Ding famous. Since Ao Ding had promised sacred ancestor Tian, he would think of a way. He was the one who lent the infernal prison to the two Red Dragon Patriarchs. His goal was to kill Lu Li and take the sacred mountain. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leader's mobile version. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.